at Sic Est.
Maybe in the last minute of your life you want to be something more than a goddamn savage!
Annunziare mendatio. Ego sum homo indomitus.
Fearless rats, insanity. He watches the game fantasy. Cradle one, forbidden sight. He searches under up the shadows and
You like this? Oh! You like being food for the immortal?
What is happening, my savage friends? You are listening to the throat of Immortal Coil, your oracle of whiskey mysticism revolution is my name. It is Saturday, the 12th of October, 2024, 11:10 p.m. West Coast Seattle, and it is time, my friends, to get savage. I'd like to remind you that this channel contains strong language, sensitive subject matter, images, and content intended for a mature 18 years or older audience. Viewer discretion is advised. This video contains copywritten content. However, under the Fair Use Act, Section 504C2, Title 17 of the United States Code, this content is presented for the purposes of education and entertainment through the use of parody, satire, critique, analysis, and or social commentary by means of subjective opinion. Which means we're going to be talking about grown-up shit, so put the kiddies to bed. It's time for the adults to talk. I'd like to thank everybody for coming in and being patient. I know it's been a couple weeks since the last broadcast. As they say, life has been lifey. You know, and it's also one of those things when life gets lifey, I want to be sure that I always bring a high vibration to the podcast. You know, I don't want to get on and be all mopey and weepy and bitching about shit. I want to make sure that the content is elevated and that everybody is charged up and ready to go. So had to take a couple weeks to take care of some personal family stuff. But now I'm back. I'm kicking ass. I've been talking with Steven the past couple days, rekindling all that kind of stuff. It's going to be a good show. This show is actually kind of a reboot from one of the shows we did a few weeks ago. I was reviewing a book called Seal, Sigil, and Call by J.R. Mascaro, and I had to wing it by myself. But because I'm not, I'm spiritual. I'm not a magician. I'm not a witch. I'm not anything like that. I don't practice by ritual. A lot of the stuff I know how to do is just sort of endemic to my spiritual background. But Steven's been initiated. He understands this stuff a lot better, and he's going to be able to bring quite a different perspective to it. So, without further ado, the man whose nut swings so hard, it drags fucking trowels through the fucking concrete. The one, the only, the magical, the mystical, the wonderful, LODONIS, Ravenwolfe, Dragonstorm. What is happening, my buddy?
What's up, brother? I didn't even change my thing to Dragon. I got to change it to Ravenwolfe. But hail the chat. Guys, please make sure to smash that like and share out that link if you guys would. We're going to have a fun time tonight. It's wonderful being back here on Savage Spirituality with my my head life roommate. The man with the astral peen. They come from Alpha 16, Immortal Coil. Going to have a nice, elevated, wonderful conversation this evening. I'd also like to say I have officially launched Dragonstorm. I've officially launched Ravenwolfe YouTube. So, guys, LODONIS Ravenwolfe channel is up and running. Got myself a new deck. So that's how the readings will commence. The spiritual topics will happen. You'll see probably a couple shows over there with myself and Immortal Coil. And I just want to say, I just want to get it out of my system because you guys know what Walton's about. If there are any kitties up this late, it better not be for a P. Diddy party. And no lube. It's just I don't even know the rest of what I was going to say. It's been good talking to you again, Alex. I missed having conversations with you. I missed talking to you. We all kind of went down our own road, like our Sunday show over on Dragonstorm, Narcissist Abuse Recovery Heroes. That's been taking a sabbatical because I just want to give a shout out real quick to Scott Clark, who is maintaining his Christian mysticism channel. Very happy to see that. He's also been working on narcissistic abuse and himself. He's been healing himself. He's been on kind of a personal healing journey. My love to Scott Clark. Hope we would see him soon. And Coach Randy White, who is one of the leading voices in narcissistic abuse recovery and awareness. He's also a manifester. Love to have him on for a conversation about that, Coil. We all match up.
That would be awesome. Yeah. We do need to start trying to get guest stars on, but I thought it was important that you and I reconnect, and especially over this kind of subject matter. We've done things in the past where we collaborated and had like a featured guest, and the broadcast went pretty well. I would like to think.
It did. It went incredibly well. Trini was a wonderful guest that we had on. I learned so much from her. The birth chart that she did for me was wonderful, and I'm glad that I had a chance to review that with you because you're also familiar with astrology and birth charts, natal charts. And we had a great time. So I can't wait to do that again. And we should try and get Coach Randy on here. He just launched the largest narcissistic abuse recovery app ever created. So guys, if you are interested in manifesting, empowering yourselves, please check out Coach Randy White on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube.
That's killer. Well, before we get started, I'd like to say hail to the chat. Of course, we have the always loyal, the mighty RR. What is up, my friend?
Brother.
How you doing? Coming in with Savage Salute. Of course, we have this ugly guy. I don't know who that is.
I don't know. He gives me it's quite average, but he gives it lean and mean.
There you go. And then we have the lovely Miss Jillian. How you doing,
Jillian?
Good to see you around.
Good to see you. Good to see you, honey. Thank you for being here. Trainwreck Express is rolling through too.
Yeah, we are working on that. There's a strong possibility next year we'll be able to start doing that kind of stuff. We also have Angelus Draven.
Hail Draven!
Now there we go. Now, Stephen, what's it like to hug Angelus Draven?
Hugging Angelus Draven is like living a dream. All right. It's a very, you would think, okay, when I think about hugging the rookie critic, it's really soft. I feel like a plushie. And I thought maybe it was the same with Draven, but it was meaty. So it's a very meaty, very masculine scent as you embrace Mr. Draven. So guys, please support him and his channel and his meaty, spicy scent. I greatly appreciate that. Good to see you, Draven. Hail, brother.
Yeah, one of the few people to meet outside of the virtual realm. I was actually kind of jealous. I was supposed to go see Steven a couple months ago, and just life said nah. So Angelus Draven hasn't went up on me. Right on, man.
You missed out.
You missed out. Yeah. Well, we got a good show for you today, guys. Yeah, we got a good show for you today, guys. We're going to be talking about a little bit about magic, a little bit of conjuring. a little bit about spirit guides, a little bit about life between life, all that kind of stuff. And definitely with the subject matter, we needed a subject matter expert. Which Stephen, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about your witchy background? How did you get involved with that? How long have you been doing it? All that kind of stuff.
Well, first I want to show CJH this because he's been asking to get his cards read for a long time. I got myself a new deck. Ravenwolfe is
Ooh.
launched. Ravenwolfe channel is launched. It will be a tarot and spiritual channel. So I have I always knew that my mother had gifts. I couldn't really explain what it was, and she's deeply Christian, so she didn't really get into any type of explanation. It was just God told her. That's how it's source.
Right.
It is God. God would tell her things.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
when I was 9 years old, I had a paranormal experience. A ghost basically told me to shut up. I was with a friend who was about
But
14. She was a medium. We were doing an investigation of sorts into a haunted area, and she told me that her spirit god Joanne didn't like me talking while she was trying to feel or sense things. I don't know if that was her or Joanne, but the end result was me talking 3 times over and over again, and out of nowhere, a voice in my ear, in this ear, going shh. And at that moment, there was no one around me. So that really opened my mind to the idea of there being what I believed at the time was metaphysical, extra
now, how old
sensitive.
were you when that happened?
I was 9 years old when that happened.
9 years old.
Um,
Okay, gotcha.
so I began seriously practicing the ritual work, necromancy, Celtic magic, Norse magic, those sort of things. And a dash of Satanism in there during the time. I did go and learn from 13 till about, I'd say till about 17. I went around and studied with different people, different types of practitioners, different covens, until I found myself pretty much cemented in Wicca. And to this day, I'm not really religious, but I consider myself Wiccan. If someone asks me, I'll say I'm a Wiccan. And that was working with the witch, like the witch of Philadelphia. Where if you were into the craft and you were seeking guidance in Philadelphia, you would go to the head of the temple, the Church of the Three Witches that I was a member of, and you would speak to her. I trained with the coven that she had trained herself before retiring and passing it on. Her name was Anne Duckworth, and then she passed it on to her student, Fran Toscani. And I trained with them for, about 4 or 5 years. Wonderful group of people. And then since then, I went on an atheist bid. I went on an atheist binge for a while, but that's because I practiced a little bit of black magic. Dragonstorm does both. Ravenwolfe
Right.
does dark and
That's
light.
when that's when
And
Stephen was an angry lesbian.
I was an angry lesbian, yeah. And then I caught karma, I caught backlash for doing that black magic, and I had the issue of before I went through a healing journey of myself, I would vacillate strongly, overcorrecting either from light to dark, lack of emotional control, emotional balance, which I have since found. So I overcorrected into atheism for a while, but that's when I went down a rabbit hole of quantum physics and quantum theory, entanglement, superposition. Of all the buzzwords, the catchphrases. I watched a movie called What the Bleep, which
Oh,
is
that's a
not
good
all
movie.
factual.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
No,
really
but
good.
it's pretty good. It's pretty good,
It is pretty good.
especially for
Some of this
like neophytes or people who are just kind of dipping their toes in.
getting
Yeah.
right, exactly. And so
Yeah.
now that movie since has been revised because certain theories have been revised. But what that taught me was that the collective consciousness that we are a part of, the entanglement that exists across source, across this ethereal, across this plane, the third, is connected to the fourth, and the second, and the fifth, and the sixth, and so on. And that magic is really just manifestation. It really is just tapping into a resonance within yourself or creating a vibrational frequency that affects something you want and attracts it to you or attracts what you want to it in the case of black magic.
Mhm.
And I switched back. I went through the healing I needed to at the time, and I became a steady practitioner since then. And I have had my wand in my hand ever since. Although I do not practice ritual craft at this point in my life unless I deem it very necessary. Most of the abilities that I use now come from passive powers, manifestation, my really utilizing my psychic abilities, gaining emotional control, and the healing journey that I've gone on has given me the ability to actually hear my spirit team. I've also recently discovered that, as well as sensing energies from other people, I can engage in telepathy, which has been a pretty cool
Oh yeah,
experience that I had with a woman I was recently seeing. So
yeah,
um, that's the gist of it, as short form.
yeah. One again, I'm no magician, but there are times where I've applied I would say magical principles. Um, Even though those principles are just kind of like a universal thing, and from my understanding, what the magician has done is kind of codified and ritualized and uh, made into something replicable, as a
Mhm.
template. Because manifestation is something that we can all do. It helps if you have
Absolutely.
a Yeah, it helps if you have a structured approach and all that kind of stuff. But
Well,
yeah,
there are steps.
most
There
of
are steps. I'm sorry, Coil.
oh, that's okay. Most of what I do is just by instincts. But go ahead. There are steps.
Yeah, there are absolutely steps that you can take. Another again, Coach Randy White, excellent manifester. Check him out. Um, there are steps. There is a framework that you need to have. We all manifest, but to
Yeah,
do it consciously, not subconsciously, not reactively,
right.
is as simple, really, guys, as visualization and knowing that it will happen. Something that I had done in magical practice for a very long. I was so sure of myself. When I cast, I create an effect every
Do
single
you have a
time.
vision board?
I have had a vision board. I do not have one up now, but I need to. And those are
Yeah.
very important pieces of equipment. Why don't you explain to the chat what that is?
Yeah, I was actually talking to Jules about this the other day. But essentially, a vision board is something that you put up that you can look at. The one that I used to have, and it's in storage. I've been kind of feral lately. One side was a cork board that I could cut out stuff and pen to it. And the other side was dry erase, where I could write down intention and little pictures and my own thing.
Mm,
But essentially, it's a way of focusing on what you desire, and it's a symbolic means of pulling the thing that you want to you. And the
yes.
idea is every time you pass it, you kind of say a little prayer, you kind of scan it, you see what's relevant, and most importantly, you tell yourself that you can have it and you do deserve it.
Mhm. Visualization is very important. Mantras important. Knowing that that thing is there. It is not creating it. This is kind of hard to wrap your head around for any of you
Right.
who aren't really initiated. It's not that you are making this manifest. It is not that you are creating this. It is. It simply is. That is the vibration that you are resonating. You are in that place. You have that the thing that you are wanting. You pull that towards you. We are all made of vibration.
Yes.
Think of everyone as a tuning fork. And when you set your vibration to a sympathetic resonance, you will attract like. The law of attraction does exist. It does. It comes into existence. I mean, oh God. Just recently, Coil, not too much off topic, but just a little bit. Just recently,
Okay.
Coil, before we started talking again, when we were kind of like doing our own thing for a minute,
Yeah.
I did something you had informed me about months and months ago when I jumped timelines. Remember that morning I called you and I said like there was an
Yeah.
earthquake and
Yeah.
I woke up and the place was shaking. I was having this crazy dream, and
Yep.
then Alex said to me, "You jumped timelines." Just 2 weeks ago, I did the same exact thing. And I recognized it, dude. I woke up,
Yeah.
everything was different, everything felt different. It was like I was just everything, nothing sat right. I was with someone else. We had actually moved in timelines together. Ooh, and
Mhm.
now I have to think about that. Oh, but that's all fair. But we both shifted timelines together. Nothing felt right. Nothing was vibrating correctly around us. But I realized after about an hour, my spirit team, I was like, why do I feel like this? Spirit team popped right in my head. You jumped, you moved timelines. And that is and that in and of itself, from a quantum perspective, is this: you are in your current state, moving forward through a thread of time. If you make a decision, if you decide consciously, or if you do something that sets you on another path, you will move, you will shift into another thread of time.
Mhm,
And every person that you have been in experience with is there,
mhm.
but it is not but they are not the same people you were just with. And
Right.
that comes from shifting your vibrational frequency. That is as simple as manifesting in your life. I shifted to a sympathetic frequency of something that I so wanted, so thought about, that it became. So these are things that happen, and they're going
Yeah.
on all the time. The multiverse exists, for lack of a better term.
Yeah. There's actually a segment of the show where we're gonna go into that with a little bit more
Oh, okay,
detail, but I'm
awesome.
glad you teased it, man. We were talking about psychic connection and telepathic and all that shit. Steven and I get in the sync very fucking easy, and there's times where we have conversations you're like, what? Da-da-da, ah, da-da-da. It just
Yeah, dude,
it kind of
we
speeds
complete each
along.
other. Yeah, we
Yeah,
complete each
yeah,
other. Well, one of us will
yeah.
just pick up and go right down what the other one was thinking. Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah, when Steven and I finally meet and we hug, I think our biggest decision is who's going to be on the left, sausage wise, and who's going to be on the right.
First off, I am not the little spoon. All right, and when you hug me, you big bastard, I will not accept. I will not accept a pickle tickle on my tummy. All right, I am not. No, I don't want your. I don't know tummy sticks.
Right, no tummy sticks. Sorry, children. Okay, so I want to start off by just addressing broadly the topic of non-physical entities because there's so many different types. Right now,
God, yes.
generically, a non-physical entity is an entity that either occupies a separate density that seems finer than ours, or uh, a consciousness that doesn't necessarily uh, physical incarnate. And there's also, I would say, primal forces that aren't necessarily conscious, but they do connote a consciousness because so many people are focusing on them and calling them into be. Now, if you want to add or subtract any of that, Stephen, go ahead.
Um, I'm sorry. While you were saying that, I lost you because CJ asked a question in the chat. If we could highlight a comment of his, would you please, before you do that, reiterate what you just said? I'm sorry.
Okay, so broadly speaking, as far as non-physical entities go, there's several types.
Yes.
Now, there's definitely
Yes.
the sort of supra consciousness, like evolved past the physical being kind of thing that you can touch with your mind or summon or call. There are beings that exist on finer densities which appear to be non-physical but are in fact incarnate.
Yes.
There are primal forces that aren't necessarily conscious themselves, but because they represent a particular realm of isness, they possess form. As well as there are also energies that are created by um, collectives focusing on the same sort of idea.
And there
And
are
if you care to add or subtract to that.
sure there are also beings who are conceived, that we would consider Homo sapien sapien, that do not possess what we most normatively consider a soul. They are born with something else, a energy that comes from another density, and you can usually tell those people they're not right in the head. They're
Mhm.
not, they're very dark types, as well as understanding that those that are born with what you would call a soul
Mhm.
can be put in situations where they are traumatized, or in situations where they are so thoroughly conditioned and defeated that they resonate so low, they will house low vibrational beings. There are also primal. There are also, he was talking about primal spirits. There are also elemental. There are also elemental spirits, I guess, if you want to use that word, shades that exist. And they come in a variety of forms, and some of them are instinctive, not thoughtful. Those are more base level beings. There are also things that come from times. I don't know how exactly to put this. They come from the time before light.
Yeah.
There are very ancient, timeless things. Think Cthulhu.
There you go.
Like you could think in that realm, the Cthulhu realm. There are those things that exist, and they are as much a part of the fabric of existence as what you would call God or angels.
Yeah.
Like the universe, when you're thinking about the entire scope of existence creation, you're not just talking about the universe we exist in this third dimensional frame. There are many different levels, many, like 12, like let's just say there's 12 dimensions, and then there are also subtleties within each. So there are beings that live in the fourth, so to speak, that can brush us. Mediums literally brush the fourth and the fifth, and they can communicate with those things. So yeah, I mean, this is a rabbit hole we can go down.
Yeah, there's non-physical entities that can temporarily inhabit a physical form for the purposes of whatever the fuck. There's also divine beings like angels and spirit guides. Yeah, and then I don't know necessarily that I would classify the Fey as non-physical. I think they're just like they switch dimensions and they're still flesh.
Yes, Fey are very much like Sasquatch. Fey are, you talk about the Sasquatch. I went down a rabbit hole. Matter of fact, let's do this on Ravenwolfe.
Okay.
I went down a Sasquatch rabbit hole where people actually caught videos of them. And when you think Sasquatch, you think of like that one video from, I don't know, was it the 60s or the 70s that was put out with like the guy in the monkey
Patterson
suit
film.
Yeah, the guy in the monkey. Yeah. That is no. When you think Sasquatch, think about a being who can walk between worlds. Literally walk between what we consider the third and the fourth. They also can cloak themselves. They can disrupt electronic equipment. A lot of entities can easily manipulate electronic equipment. And so Sasquatch can be sitting across the yard, like just sitting down, hanging out next to a tree, looking right at you, and you may never see him. You may never see him because he blends so well in between the dimensions, in between the third and the fourth, that unless you're focused on his eyes, unless you're focused on the frame of his face, you won't see the shoulders and the body and the legs, but he's there or she's there.
Yeah, absolutely. So, as we get into the show, Stephen, we want to assume that most people come to this program with a certain knowledge base. So I'd like you to just be as descriptive and honest as you know how to be. And if anybody needs any clarification, just go ahead and type the question into the chat, and we'll be happy to clarify. But the show exists not only to uplift you, but to hold a standard for something that you should research and bring to yourself. So the book that I'm reviewing with Stephen is called Seal, Sigil, and Call, and it's by an author called J.R. Mascaro. I have a physical copy of the book here. I'm going to go ahead and read the author's bio, and then I'll read the description that's found on the back. This is from the publisher. J.R. Mascaro is a sorcerer, meditation guide, and mindfulness advocate who has been engaged in the work of the magician since childhood. He has used his practice detailed in this book to navigate life, which has taken him through varied avenues and locations on a journey of discovery. Visit him at jrmascaro.com. Okay. the publisher's description. Drawing from Eastern and Western traditions to form its unique path, Seal, Sigil, and Call introduces you to a new school of ceremonial magic. This beginner-friendly book uses tantric, kabbalistic, and tradition-free spiritual exercises to teach you concepts of energy and centered awareness. Once you've built a solid foundation, J.R. Mascaro shares the practices of pan-idolinism, and I probably butchered that word, but we'll get into that later. His innovative system of ritual magic. This system shows you how to contact and work out with various eidolons, spirit entities that aid in your personal development. Seal, Sigil, and Call helps you lift the veil of material awareness by providing powerful ontological tools that are not restricted by any single spiritual tradition. With Mascaro's guidance, you'll find greater peace through inner exploration and manifest your highest experience of being. So I mean that's a mighty tall promise there, but I like the way that it's worded. I've been around a long time, so I've read a lot of fucking mystical books, so I have a pretty good bullshit radar. So we'll get into that. So in doing research for the show prior to broadcast, it turns out that J.R. Mascaro is one of those guys that would be considered on the spectrum. So as he grew up, he had like classic ADHD or whatever you would consider that to be. It used to be treated a certain way back in the 90s and 2000s, but what he ended up finding is that it helped him perceive the universe in such a way that he started to be able to perceive past the culture that we've built for ourselves and look into something deeper. Many of us are hypnotized by the very culture that we inhabit, and we don't even realize it. It's like what the Matrix was talking about. We just accept de facto reality as is. Our adults teach us a culture, and then we just kind of fold ourselves into it and act out a different version of the same thing. But this guy developed a genius level intellect and was able to go to college early and all that kind of stuff. Teach himself several different languages, and he became involved in the magical arts. But from what I understand, this guy tried several, let's say, traditional witchy sort of, and he describes it in the book. Stephen might know better how to explain that, but there's certain typical approaches that require sort of like going to school, where like, here's your kindergarten shit, here's your first grade shit, here's your second grade shit, and you're building on basic skills instead of actually practicing shit. Now, did you ever experience or come up on anything like that, sir?
Oh yeah, because there's different disciplines. First off, the Matrix has been playing in the background the whole time, and it's interesting you just mentioned that. Also, okay, excuse me. Going back, so the Earth magics that I began with were all dependent upon developing a relationship with Gaia, developing a relationship with the elements, and using the malign powers within yourself. Sorcery, this man is a sorcerer. So sorcery is something I am absolutely familiar with. It is something that you would use in manifestation. It's also something that I've used in necromancy. And that is using spirits and other worldly beings, or extra worldly beings, extra dimensional beings, in order to manifest, in order to control environment. And for good or bad purposes. Of course, good or bad is relative to a person's moral compass, although we all have an innate one. So this man is someone who uses sigils. The name of the book is wonderful. Sigil, seal, and what?
Sigil, or seal, sigil, and call.
Seal, sigil, and call. I love this guy. That is exactly the type of practice that I myself got involved in at a young age. I kind of went through like the Celtic, Norse, Druidic kind of earth stuff. And then I went into sorcery. So that is specifically designed to use words, signs, seals, names that have an imprint in the collective conscious, an imprint in source, because it's been used so many times, or it is the name of a being that exists beyond our framework of the 3D existence.
Mhm.
In order to achieve those practices, one must break the mold of conditioning that we all go through in in our incarnations, from the three-dimensional world around us, through parenting, home life, schooling, experience. Because in order for a person, and it's interesting that he has the ADHD. It's interesting that he has that.
Mhm.
He's on the spectrum, because
Right.
it honest to the gods, in order to operate as a witch doctor, as a shaman, as a
Mhm.
witch, as a sorcerer, magician, whatever you want to call it, whatever type, you have to be what you would say a touch crazy.
Yes.
And really having that touch of craziness isn't that you are insane. It is that you have the ability to shift your mind out of the framework that the matrix has created around us. And that makes you appear insane, but that's because, or crazy, but that's because your mind has the ability to see, perceive, feel, touch, sense, and affect, push and pull uh, energies that exist around us, that if you are not, if you are too conditioned, you are unable to see and feel.
Right. Um, Honestly, some of those quote unquote disorders, I think were just invented to describe
Yes.
people who aren't participating in the
Yes.
program, you know.
Yes.
And it's easier to just medicate them or lock them away somewhere than it is to try to deal with them and ask them what they perceive. You know, towards the end of my
Absolutely.
mother's yeah, towards the end of my mother's life, she would disassociate and hear voices and blah blah blah, and everyone was just kind of like, "Oh, she's crazy." But I was the only one who would sit down and take time to try to listen to her and try to explore that stuff with her, you know. So
Yeah. Because the walls. See, the thing with the thing about your mother's condition is that it is debilitating to a degree when operating within the construct that we are raised in, that we are the environment
yeah,
we're in. But it also allowed her to not be confined by those walls. You
absolutely.
know,
I think
that's
that's
a
part of
beautiful
why I
thing.
chose her to be my mother. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, that's beautiful.
absolutely. Um, so just kind of we can't review the entire book, but there's a couple of things here that um, I wanted to ask you about, Stephen. Again, these are things that I'm broadly familiar with, just intuitively, but I have no formal training, so it's interesting to bounce these off of you. One of the first things he talks about in his book is keeping a tome and then creating a cipher for your tome so that if it falls out of your hand, people can't use that shit against you. What do you think about that?
Ooh, before I begin this, I want to say there's been some wonderful comments in the chat. Thank you guys for being here. Please smash the like and share out the link, and I'd like to go over some of those when you have a moment, Coil. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
so
Let's get to the first couple topics, and we'll get to the chat.
okay, sounds great. So, of course you do. When you keep a tome, when you keep a grimoire, you have to you have to do it in such a way that only you can understand it without a cipher, without giving someone a cipher. Um, one of the okay, how do I put this? For instance, not too long ago, in February, I did a spell, and I put that spell out for other people to use because it was related to the content that I was doing. And I also understood while giving out this spell that the person I was casting it on, the people I were casting it on, would see it, and that due to their background may try to pervert it or do it upon me or however. The spell that I did in that video is not the instructions that I put for others, because there are certain move. There are, first off, there are knowledges that you have that are meant to be yours alone. Your experience, your imprint is very unique. If you have a spell, if you have a grimoire, let's just say from Merlin, and you have a grimoire from another magician, and you have the same set of spells, the same spells in each book, those two books, are still different. They're still different because of the imprint that that magician is putting into the words, the ritual, and the magic that they put into it. And the wording is so important. Words, you spell words. Words are spells. So when you are spelling in your grimoire, it is very important to how you phrase things and the words you put into it. Because a person may look and say, get a red candle and use this and that. Okay, what color red is that? What shade is that? By saying red, do you mean blue? Because there are people who do grimoires who will do that. They will opposite colors,
Speak
black
in
and white,
code,
white is
yeah.
black. Speak in
Yep.
code. And unless you have a cipher for that exact book, you're not going to understand what you're doing. The LODONIS itself has a seal. I also have more than one secret name that I use in my invocations, that I use in my power, my spell work. I always have.
Mhm.
Now, one of them was Storm. And I made the decision to share Storm with another person whom I thought was a decent practitioner, I thought was my equal, and I wanted to build with. And that's why Dragonstorm has the success that it has, the power that it has. But I have other names. Your secret names also hold weight. They also hold power. So there, when a person creates a tomb, when a person creates their own grimoire, you have to do it in such a way that if Sally so and so looks at those spells, they may be able to perform them, but it's not going to have the effect, the desired effect that the person who wrote it created it for. Because a good sorcerer will always make sure that there are either missing elements that only he would know or she would know, and that there is coded verbiage that only they can understand themselves to know what it means precisely. Because everyone can look at the color black, everyone can look at the color red, and they can all say, hey, I see and identify that as black, I identify that as red. But every single person looking at that color is looking at it from a different viewpoint. They are conceptualizing something entirely different dependent upon their experience. And unless you have a way to, and the same thing with spell books, unless you have a cipher, unless you have a way to explain to every individual definitively what this means, then any person performing those magics is either going to be ineffectual or it is not going to create the desired effect. It's a very smart thing what he said. You absolutely keep coded grimoires. I have shown my grimoires to very few people, and all
Yeah.
but one of them understood it the way that I wrote it.
Nice. Nice.
Absolutely, brother.
So the next thing is calling quarters. He talks about banishing rituals. He talks about invocations of the elements, of the directions, and just basically making a sacred space. So maybe talk a little bit about that.
Yes, yes. I create this circle as a place that is not a place and a time that is not a time.
Yep.
So creating sacred space and hail to the watchtowers, of the northeast, west, and south. When you are creating sacred space, you are creating a spherical region within time and space that is your own. That is a protective bubble. Now, there are different ways to go about this, and depending on what you're doing, there's different levels to this. But creating that sacred space means that you are sitting outside of everyone else and everything else. You are connecting to source. You are connecting to the gods. You are in their chamber, depending on which god and goddess you are serving. Like that is your realm in adoration to the specific god or goddess frequency. Mind you, everything's a frequency. The specific frequency that you are attempting to make contact with. When you call to the watchtowers, to corners, you are solidifying not only the boundaries of your sacred space, you are also inviting in the lords and ladies of those particular elements: earth, air, fire, water. You are spirit. Your connection with the source is spirit. The five-sided, the five-pointed pentagram. Encapsulated in the circle. The pentagram itself says it all. When you invoke those powers, you are speaking to the elements within yourself, connecting yourself, your physical manifestation, which embodies all the elements, with spirit, encapsulated in space and time, while in reverence to a frequency or an energy or your god or goddess. Now, if you are performing sorcery, that is a very important circle you are casting.
Mhm.
Because not only are you casting that circle, depending on how you are performing your sorcery, you are either evoking or invoking. That's a very important difference. When you're doing something on the, I'm going to say, darker side of necromancy, of sorcery, you are calling in an entity that exists outside of the third and containing it to get information or to force it to do something you want. And if you are performing that, the containment, that sacred space, is not walking around with an anathema and going, "I bless this space." It's not. You're not just staging. You're not just staging. Right?
No,
This is not what you're
you're
doing.
enforcing your will there. Yeah.
You are not only enforcing will and containment. I have had, God, since my youth, literal like blankets, placements, mats that are consecrated and drawn with containment. Like this,
Yeah.
that are used specifically for those purposes. And when you're doing that, when you're doing that kind of sorcery, you are manipulating and containing.
Mhm.
But when you are doing earth-based witchcraft, you are simply creating a sacred space around you to sit outside of time and space, to connect with your deity and resonate in the frequency that you are attempting to become
Yeah.
sympathetic with, in order to give honor, do honor, or create manifestation.
That's awesome, Stephen. So two more topics, and we'll check in with the chat here. One of the other things he talks about is creating basically like an energetic wand, which is vibrational in nature, but also having like a physical scepter, something that you can physically hold. What's the difference between the two?
All right. Well, a wand, traditionally, a wand, you want something that can direct power and create manifestation, something like Hollywood. So you have a Hollywood wand, and you can use that to direct the flow of energy. And it's almost like it's a scope on a sniper rifle.
Yeah.
Right?
The language he uses specifically, there's a scepter of the art and the scepter of the artifice, and one's like uh, one's holographic and one's physical.
Okay. So,
Yeah.
well, so he's talking about spirit body. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so, whoo, all right. Hey, you're taking me down there. Okay,
Yeah,
hold
yeah,
on.
yeah. I wanted to make sure we were on the same page there.
Hmm. No, I didn't know you were going there. That's not something that I usually get talked. I usually have engaged
That's why you're
conversations
here,
about.
man. I
Okay,
I was
all right.
trying to do this one by myself, and I was just like, how the fuck do I explain this?
Okay, all right. You have an astral body and you have a physical body. You have
Yes.
spirit and you have body. All right. And understand your spirit. I know a lot of people like they think about it as being inward. Your astral body is all around you. And that astral body can be projected into other places, other spaces. You can project it in other people's minds. When you are working, all right, all right. I know it's wow. It's
You're
it's
good.
strange. It's something I do. It's something that I do naturally, but it's not
Yeah,
something I've had
yeah,
to talk about in
yeah.
forever.
Pull it in, create the
All right,
vocabulary for it.
all right, yeah, dude. You are sitting Indian style meditating. You've got your crystals, you've got your staff, your wand, you've got your articles, whatever you have, and you are resonating at a sympathetic frequency to what you were trying to achieve. You are also at the same time moving outside of your body by using your spirit or astral form. And when you use that form, you are doing it with a conceptualization that you have created of who you truly are in that realm, because that body moves throughout different spaces and different places. It is the part of you that is spirit, that is the true hand you wield in order to manipulate energies outside of the third, outside of the denseness of the carbon based thing that we are.
Hmm. Yeah, keep going. You're doing good, man.
And when you use that, you are connecting to energy fields and places in existence that are beyond the walls of the conditioning of the matrix that we are in. And that being is you. It is more important to understand that you, because that is the part of you that truly connects to source and that moves in such a way through the ocean of energy that is around us that allows you the connections and the avenues to talk to, communicate with, engage with beings that do not exist in the matrix that we cut, that the third dimensional matrix,
Hmm.
which we
Third
are in.
density. Yep.
Third density. Thank you. So the tools that you acquire while you go through those travels, which is much like enchantment in the third, it takes a lot of time to be able to exist in that space, first off, to be able to live in that space and maintain it with enough cohesion, enough conscious cohesion, to be able to move and to travel, but also to garner in some cases, but fashion the tools that you employ to create and cast from your true self. And by true self, I mean your spirit.
Like your oversoul. Yeah.
Yes. So the difference between, I forget the phraseology you used, but the difference between
Scepter of the art, scepter of the artifice.
the scepter of the art would be the Hollywood wand that you fashion for the 3D in order to cast circle, in order to direct energy and vibration from the house of your physical self. Whereas a scepter of the artifice is the wand that you have garnered, fashioned, imbued, enchanted, created in your astral self.
There you go.
There you go. Yeah.
That's
there you
cool. I've been waiting for a
Whew.
show like this where we could fucking pick your brain about some of the stuff you know, man. Because
go. He just took me.
Steven, yeah, Steven knows his fucking shit. But I think a lot of people have like this Wizard of Oz perception of witches or whatever the fucking craft, or
A
know,
lot of
some
that
shows.
has to do with prop. Yeah, a lot of that has to do with
Yeah,
like just propaganda and gaslighting. And
yeah. So one more piece, and then we'll get to the chat. A part of the sacred circle, and you kind of mentioned this with like your consecrated mats and all that, is certain amplifying elements. So if you're going to be talking to this sort of spirit, a piece of iron might be helpful. If you're going to be talking to this spirit, maybe some earth would be helpful. If you're going to be talking to this kind of spirit, maybe a candle would be helpful. Can you talk about that?
don't use iron if you're trying to contact Fae. They hate it. They hate it. And a lot of that has to do with the Dark Age humanity.
Yeah.
So everything. Whew, all right, Jesus. Okay. Everything has a particular value because of how a being exists to them. So what dirt is to you, human, is not what dirt is to a fae or another type of entity. And some do not even recognize dirt. And I'm just using this as an example.
Sure.
Some do not even recognize dirt as something useful or something that they can identify with. So it's like trying to write a note in English to a person from Shanghai. What is the scribble? This doesn't mean anything. When you're using certain elements in practice, as it pertains to sorcery, each creature, each uninfleshed or differently infleshed being comes from a world with a different set of rules, a different existence. If you want to entice, if you want to garner favor with something from another plane, then you have to use things they recognize or would value, like humans value gold. Humans value gold. Gold may not mean shit to something from another realm. The vibrational frequencies involved, because everything has vibration. Everything in existence has an energetic frequency. So you want to use frequencies that are like what that entity or what that being understands. And that is more effective in communication, in opening communication. One of the reasons why you have magical language like Draconian, for instance, is because those words mean something, that language means something, they have power in the realm in which you are trying to connect with energetically. So if you are trying to contact Fae, if you're trying to contact Fae, for instance, you would use things that they value. You would use flowers, bark, moss, mushrooms. You would use things that they live around, that they are familiar with, or something that they value. If you are, let's do this too. If you are attempting to contact something that is dark, demonic, so to speak, You would use a type of currency that they value, that's something that is abusive by nature, narcissistic, psychotic in their realm of normalcy. You would use blood, flesh.
Right. Right.
All of these things have a different energetic frequency, and they are a currency in order to open communication, show honor or understanding, or entice something to be sympathetic to what you are trying to resonate in. Did I answer?
Yeah. Yeah. I love that, man. Uh, thank you once again, Stephen. I know you don't get
Okay.
an opportunity to talk about stuff like this too much, but when I read this book, I was like, oh, we got to go over that. So we'll check in with the chat here. Let's see. We got CJH. He's saying, man, the last few months. Sorry, I'm on a smartphone. Last few months were crazy with the entities and the lightning strike and whatnot. It's too calm right now, besides feeling weird. And it always goes back to the number 13 with me. Now, Stephen, you were just talking about numerology and the DM. What significance is 13 symbolize for you?
Well, 13 is one of my favorite numbers. I'm not very much into numerology, which is why I posted that. I was asked if anybody could tell me. But one thing that I did mention was CJ has that like unlucky idea with 13. Now, you will manifest that in if you've had bad experiences with a certain number. But they're all neutral. They all have a certain energy that brings things into you. And what you should do is actually recognize that that is something that has brought you pain in the past or bad experience in the past. Research it, figure out why, because it may be something you're manifesting or projecting or creating, or it is a sign from your spirit team trying to tell you something.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. You can also do that simple thing. 1 + 3 = 4. And each one of those prime numbers have a different sort of quality to it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and it's also like the divine 12 + 1 kind of thing. And so you have the divine 12, and then you have unity as a component of that. And maybe that's good, maybe that's bad. It also depends on
Jesus
how
had
you.
12. Jesus had 12
Yeah,
apostles, and he was the 13th. That was a coven.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
why
There you
13 is
go.
the number of a coven. Right. It's recognized throughout history.
Yeah. So then he also says, quantum immortality and simulation theory. I'm more convinced now than ever before, but not 100%, which I think was a reference to the bleep. He goes on to say the theory that we all keep going despite dying in other timelines, like from our point of view, we keep living, but from others we can die, and vice versa. Yeah, I actually have had several instances where I know on a different timeline I died just then, and for whatever reason, I jumped or shifted or collapsed into the current one. Broadly speaking, a lot of the timelines have been collapsing for all of us, but individually, we do have those opportunities. We'll kind of explore that a little bit in the show, but I think that's sort of what you were talking about a little bit before, Stephen, when you said that you were
Yeah,
jumping timelines. Yeah.
yeah. That is along that line. We'll get into that. Like, later, get you a segment dedicated to that. I'd
A little
also
bit.
like
Yeah,
to
yeah, yeah.
mention. I'd also like to mention one of the best movies ever to talk about what that exact topic is The One. If you guys ever seen The One,
Is that
which is
with
about
Jet Li?
where
Yeah,
Jet Li goes to different timelines and kills himself in another timeline and collects that energy. Yeah, that's a
yeah.
great movie. That's
It is.
not
It
that
is really
far off.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So Jillithing, she says, "What are your thoughts on using subliminal messaging in manifesting?"
The media does that all the time. That's why the Luciferians have taken over our entertainments and our media, because they use subliminal messaging to create their manifestations. If you can condition, it's the same thing. It's the same thing as using sorcery to conjure spirits when you're doing conjuring. You are forcing another entity to do your bidding. The Luciferians use entertainments to condition people to change the thinking of the population so that the group, that herd, manifests what the elites want them to, which is why we see a rise in all of the destructive behavior, the spread of mental illness, and the craziness that we're seeing in the world at this time. The elites took the internet, modern mythologies, TV, news, and turned it into their subliminal messaging sounding boards to create mass manifestations that are self-destructive in the population, that aid and benefit them.
Well, it's also important to point out that we are all always manifesting all the time. Just not everybody does it consciously. One of the big things about our experience on Terrasol 3 at this point is that we have been convinced that we are less than what we are. And our ability to create and manifest have been hijacked by entities who do not have our best interest in mind. A lot of those entities have been removed, and pretty soon we're going to be in a situation where, okay, we cleaned up. You guys need to decide what to do with your insane element that's native to your thing. We got all the fucking off-world shit off. What are you going to do? How are you going to treat yourselves?
One of the things that I love about resonating you into my life, Alex, is that you. I want to continue. Jillian said something else that I'm going to touch on for a second, but you are one of the missing pieces in my understanding of the cosmic experience. Because whereas you said, I took that time you told me I was married to Gaia to heart.
Yeah.
Because it's the truth. Even though I think in terms of other realms, astral realms, I was still limited in my understanding of the cosmic realm. And
Yeah.
a lot of the things that I have done or I've experienced or I've learned about are just as relative to the topic of extraterrestrials.
Yeah.
And how they communicate and their what we would call metaphysics or spirituality. A lot of it, it's the same thing. It's the same connecting tissue. But going back real quick to Jillian, she had just said so we can work on a personal level. Absolutely, which is why Alex was talking about using dream boards, using boards to do that. Because if you continually do that, positive self-messaging, exactly, Jillian. If you continually look at that and you create that thought, you create that cycle in your mind of thinking, it just makes manifestation happen, which is why you use such things. So, yes, it can work on a personal level. Absolutely.
Okay, so Siege says, I had an earthquake dream a month ago too, and I woke up once where I was sleeping on the couch and the couch was upside down above me. All that happened in the last few weeks. So as far as dream analysis goes, when you have like earthquake or tornado or natural disaster dreams, that means shit's about to get real, man. Things are changing and shifting around you. Do you want to add to that, Stephen?
I absolutely do. I'm sorry, I was really punchy about that one.
Go for it.
Because when I woke up to that earthquake that happened out of New Jersey of all places, the dream that I was engaged in, CJ, I was on a couch in a living room, trying to discern why a dog was being aggressive when the dog was not. It was the way I was seeing the dog because of my own past fear, and then ended up becoming friendly with the dog. But there were other people in this room. I don't want to go through the whole dream, but basically, yeah, that's crazy that those two things actually line up, bro. I woke up to an earthquake, and I was actually on a couch during this entire dream sequence, this very lucid dream sequence that I had. Very cool, man. We'll talk about that at some point. Right.
Definitely. And as we go on, chat, if anything that we're talking about is unclear to you, or you want some additional, just type your questions into the chat. We got a little bit more to cover here, and especially since we have Steven's brain to pick about this stuff, I really think it's important to cover this. This author's also on Instagram, and it would be cool to reach out to him at some point and
Yeah.
kind of let him
Yeah.
know
I would
that
love to.
he's being well received, that kind of thing. Okay, so the next thing we're going to talk about here is, let's see. I'm kind of flipping through the table of contents to see what's interesting here.
That's okay. While you do that, do you mind if I address one or two things?
Go ahead.
So Angelus also mentioned, he said It Man, but then he said I Man. I Man on Sci-Fi has a thing, had a thing that was called the Quicksilver Gland, and it came from Bigfoot. I want to look into that. Thank you, CJ, thank you, Angelus, for bringing that up. Angelus also says, like vampires, we're not all monsters. Yeah. When you're talking about different types of entities. Yes, absolutely. Energy. Like I said, I operated. I learned from a group of psychic vampires once. I spent some time with them, completely in the understanding that while I was learning from them, they were feeding off of me. It was an exchange. It was
Right.
But they taught me psychic defense. They taught me how to build labyrinths and walls. They taught me how to invade minds. They taught me how to protect myself from being invaded. They taught me so many things that was absolutely worth these psychic vampires, these energy vampires, feeding off of my life force. And when the time came, I moved away from them. It was the evil. True evil is insidious and invasive and manipulative. Dark is not evil. Although that coven was dark, they were able to tap in, and I was able to exchange information and energy with my dark shadow self. And it was a interesting experience that I learned a lot off of, and I'm glad that I had it. But I wouldn't call them evil. I wouldn't label them as evil. And to be fair, I've also known a couple satanic cats that I would not label as evil, although they might proclaim themselves to be. Because it's all in how you take your spirituality and how you take your understanding. Because we all live as beasts of the field. And that is basically the satanic mantra.
Yeah. Well, and certain faiths are reactionary by their very nature.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. And that's a different show.
That is a different show. And I'm just
Okay.
quick, I'm just going to say that there are different types of Satanists, just like there's different type of Christians, different types of this and that. There is absolutely those reactionary types that Coil's talking about right there. But I have met satanic practitioners who are actually atheists. And their connection to their shadow selves, their dark selves, has way more to do with understanding the primal animalistic powers of who you are. And it is not done with a lack of morality. It is more about power, savage spirituality, really. Is more what it's about. Understanding your primal instincts and powers and drives, being an alpha, not being a predator, but being someone who you will defend himself or herself, will take what they want, and does not respect weakness. That is a more darker aspect of it, but for authenticity, I wanted to say that because I talk about Luciferians.
Absolutely.
To me, there is a difference between Luciferians and Satanists.
Yeah. Well, it's also necessary to kind of touch on this stuff, not only to establish yourself as a subject matter expert, but to kind of contrast with what this author and what this book is what his intent was in creating this. So all of that stuff that we were talking about before goes to set the stage for the practitioner in this book to contact what he calls eidolons and building relationships with them. And then at some point, if you become cool enough with them, let's say, perhaps they would walk with you as a familiar. Now, okay. Now, his definition. I know Steven's chomping at the bit. Let me get through this definition.
Okay,
I'll
go
let you
ahead,
go,
go
bro.
ahead.
His definition of an eidolon from the book is called, in this system, we define an eidolon as any non-physical, self-aware entity that has never been incarnated as a biological creature on Earth, or alternatively, entities that inhabit the subconscious mind. That classification includes many entities of various vicissitudes. However, the main three classifications which we are concerned are otherworld spirits, primals, and celestials. Eidolons can straddle or overlap these classifications, and you may find the way that you classify the ones that you work with will change as your understanding of them changes. Interesting shit. Go off, Steven. Go ahead.
Whew. I am LODONIS Kirai, son of Enki, Black Dragon of the Anunnaki. Oh boy.
There's a lot there, I know, buddy.
Oh man. Well, it's not just that. It's like, what do I want to say?
Uh-huh.
What should I say? How can I put this? Those are called secondaries. That's what I was brought up in. That's what my first coven, the seven. That is what we practiced as well during our sorcery and necromancy. There are entities. Okay. All right. There are entities that you can contact, that you can invite. When you go into a haunted house, you go into a haunted area, and you say aloud, I give you permission to use my energy. If you do that, and I've watched some people do this, you are allowing the entity in that area to use your energy, to use your spirit, to make manifest, to engage in the 3D surroundings. You also give them permission to house themselves within you. I talk a lot about this on my narcissistic abuse recovery channel about narcissists and housing demon spirits. Because when you resonate on a frequency that low, you attract those entities, and they can attach themselves to you, and eventually through the acts of incurring evil karma, bad karma, they can eventually possess you. Spoken with a lot of victims or targets of narcissistic abuse who have dealt with demonically possessed people. You can travel using your astral self to places where you learn from, manifest, become sympathetic energetically to something, and ask it to aid you. There are many different levels to this, man. There are something as simple as giving offerings and asking something to help you, to walk with you as a protectorate spirit. There are also times in your life when you achieve a certain goal, a certain learning, a lesson that you had to learn from a member of your spirit team, and that member of your spirit team will leave and will be replaced by something else for the next lesson. You can also evoke entities from realms who have abilities, insights, energies for things that you are trying to get. When I was young, I asked one such entity to walk with me, And it wasn't until last year that I spoke with a medium out of Daytona, Florida, Jory Lynn, who informed me that one of these entities that I had invited to walk with me had become toxic because it was no longer necessary for it to be there, and I had never let it go. This was the thing that created the rage that I would fly into when I was heavily triggered, emotionally unbalanced. I have since it's been gone, never gone. I have since she helped to remove that from me with the help of Archangel Raphael and Michael. I have not flown into that rage since. You can absolutely, absolutely work with something that exists from another place and time, invite it into yourself, invite it to your team, and depending on your level of competency, control, or lack thereof, can be used to accentuate your abilities, to give you glimpses or abilities you never had or want to work on, or help you to generate frequencies that will manifest things into your life or draw them to you, or in some cases, as I have practiced, to be used as a weapon. And it's a very difficult practice, and subconsciously we all do it. Subconsciously we all do it, whether you're just Joe Blow with a normal regular ass spirit team, because these transitions happen, these changes and exchanges happen, and but if you become practiced in sorcery, in conjuring, excuse me, if you become practiced in conjuring, then you can absolutely find yourself something that is very good at, let's say, psychic invasion, invading other people's minds, changing other people's minds, coercing, creating coercion on an energetic, spiritual, like energetic level. You can invite them onto your team and utilize them to help you in that pursuit. You can also do the same thing with astral projection, manifesting money, light. It's all across the board. It's light and dark, good, what you would call good or evil in the extremes. And it's interesting that he brings that up because more and more, Alex,
Mhm.
more and more things that I had once never expressed to anyone else. That's why I love talking to you, bro. Things that I never, ever, 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 ever expressed to anyone else. That I have known were true since I was a kid is being talked about around me. I have secondaries. I've always had secondaries. LODONIS is
Absolutely.
a secondary,
Mhm. That's
and
interesting.
that's as far as I want to go with that.
That's cool, and that's personal.
Yeah.
The author does acknowledge that at some point you can contact whoever the fuck you want, but he has what he calls an inner circle of 18 specific entities that he has identified as willing to work with neophytes, and these are for the most part safe, even though some of their personalities may be abrasive or logical, or because they're literally they don't operate in Terran fucking logic systems. They are their own fucking things. So he names them. He shows you their sigils one by one. He describes their characteristics. Sometimes, if they present an idea of physicality, he will describe them. But he's also willing to say that you're going to have your own experience of them. Here are just 18 that are safe to work with, and you
I
should
need that
start
book.
here. Yeah, yeah.
I
I'll
need that book.
yeah. So he says, like, here are 18 to start with. Start here, get cool with at least 3 of them, and especially the 18th one. And then from that point, it's up to you. And then you know, what you do is what you do, and how you do it is how you do it. But that's essentially the point of the book. I really dug that, but as I read it and I thought about conjuring and all that kind of stuff, I wanted to kind of contrast this with something else. And this is a little bit more stuff that I know about. So also would love to get your input on this. So there's a difference between conjuring eidolons, as he calls them, and spirit guides. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the difference. I wanted to lay some groundwork before we did that. You did talk about vibration, Stephen. Everything is vibration. If you read the Bible, it says, and God said, before anything else happened, there was sound, which is vibration. Sound created light, light created everything else, right? We're all using a physical vehicle. We're not, you know, as Yoda said, crude matter, right? Luminous beings, we are not this crude matter. Even though let's say the physical constitution of your physical vehicle was created here, our spirits are not from here. We emerge from soul groups. You know, young souls are vibrated into existence through sheer intention, and then they go through a journey. But they don't go through the journey alone. They go through the journey with other young souls, but they're also tendered to and cared after by older souls. Okay. And this is very simplistic. This is not actually how it is, but this is the best way to explain it. Part of what furthers a spirit's evolution is incarnating into a physical shell. And that happens on Earth, that happens on countless planets everywhere. But you don't go alone. Earth is kind of unique because we have this amnesia factor to it. So as we go, we have spirit guides. Right? Now these are beings that certain spiritual traditions call them guardian angels, you know, but these are literally spirits, like either elder or they're taking turns with you as everybody incarnates. They walk with you as you go throughout your fucking existence, right? And it's not like they're weaving your experience. It's just that they're helping out with certain things, and especially in terms of guidance and inspiration. They'll make sure you notice certain things and that kind of stuff.
They try.
They try. We don't always
They
listen.
try.
And not everybody even perceives that they have a spirit guide during their specific incarnation. It just depends on your level of awareness.
Your spirit guide. Yeah.
You could
I'm sorry, go
also,
ahead.
I mean, there's a lot to say here. I mean, when you're designing your life, it's like how aware do you want to be? How dim do you want to be? Is there something specific you're trying to experience, and do you need to develop that sense of awareness, or is this a play life? Is this like, you know, vacation time, happy fun time? And then as you grow and evolve, yeah, you might outgrow certain spirit guides, and they might say, okay, it's time for somebody else, right?
Yes.
So I think that's a good place to start. Go ahead, Stephen, if you want to comment on that.
Woo! Oh God, where do we start? Okay. So your spirit team does try and talk to you, but they cannot directly interfere unless you ask them. They cannot help you, they cannot guide you, they cannot protect you, or they can guide, but they cannot protect you, they cannot intervene unless you ask for their help. Spirit guides also have passive abilities. They do create signs and synchronicities so that you can see them. Angels do that as well. Angels are logical beings. They do not have an emotional self, contrary to belief. And that they will create signs and synchronicities for you. This is your connection to the matrix, connection to the spirit, the 5D. Your spirit's team, like I said earlier, can change out if you have performed a certain function that you had needed to learn in your life in this incarnation. They can swap them out. One can leave, and one can, another one will take its place. Your spirit team can also abandon you, like when you let a narcissistic ex into your house and they get pissed off because you've already learned this lesson, so they light your kitchen on fire. That happened to me. Your spirit team will defend you in rooms which you are not in, that they are a function of protection in that way. But when it comes to you moving through life, when it comes to like you consciously using them as a part of your armor, your spiritual armor, so to speak, or army, you have to communicate openly with them. You have to verbalize it. Sound is an energy frequency. It is a vibration. You have to use your vocal cords. All right. When your spirit teams talks to you, this is something that I had always known, but I wasn't really. My healing journey has been incredible, Alex. When your spirit team talks to you, it talks to you through inspiration. If you quiet your mind, learning how to cut. This is why, like, one of Zen mastery, learning how to meditate on nothingness is so very important. Because when you meditate on nothingness, when you can come to nothing in your mind, you can hear them. You can hear not only them, but you can also hear other people, other energies, other things, other entities. When your spirit team talks to you, it's like it's your imagination kicks on for just a second. It's like your imagination kicks on, and they will send you visions. They will send you words. They will send you thoughts that you can hear. I've been doing this consistently for months now, and it's been a hell of an experience to really trust your intuition in the broadest sense of communication. And earlier you had said there's a difference between what the author calls ideolons
Yes.
and spirit team. Your spirit team talks to you, communicates with you, and moves around you. Ideolons, secondaries, are things that you invite into you that you can then use. That you
At
can
any point,
summon.
Stephen, in your personal journey, did your spirit team ever express an opinion about some of the secondaries that you had hanging around?
They had.
Mhm.
But in my unhealed state, this is the thing. For me, with that, I don't want to say its name because I don't want to bring it back. I don't want to talk about it all too much, to be honest.
Yeah.
But the thing that I had brought into me early in my life to protect me from what I was going through, which was sexual abuse, being abused, being beaten, being treated like a piece of shit, dealing with racism at school. The thing that I had brought into me then to make me powerful became toxic over time. It also recognized its own in as far as a vibrational frequency in one of my exes and would manifest itself during that time. My spirit team had told me for many, many years through signs and synchronicities that I no longer needed it. It wasn't until after it was gone, until jury. So sometimes you need an external factor, an external communication or line of communication, or someone who's more practiced, like a medium, in order to understand things. Much like those much like people who have been through abusive situations who then go to therapy need a therapist or a coach or someone to help guide them. Shout out to Master of TDS and Writing Raven, wonderful people who work in the mental health profession, who at one time helped me greatly. When you're unable to see those things, sometimes you need someone to help you out. So it was only after the fact that my spirit team was able to let me know that one of the, we'll use his verbiage, ideolons that I had communicated with or invited in to house was toxic. And it was unmistakable. As I said, it was unmistakable. My ability to control my emotions, to not spiral into dark places in my mind, and not fly into that savage dark rage that I used to go into when I was triggered into that into an offense, into fight over flight. It's gone, and it has to do with that of the Ideolon. So that's the only time that I imagine that. But I mean, and as far as like using, the difference between using an Ideolon and using your spirit team is the Ideolon is something that you consciously choose to use or allow to house in yourself, whereas a spirit team is always with you, but they cannot interfere with you. They cannot help you in protection and certain things unless you ask them to, with the exception of them naturally protecting you from other people who are casting against you.
Mhm.
That they can protect you on that realm, and then steer others, work with other entities, other spirits. Because you have to look at it like this, Coil. I'm sorry, I'm trying not to go too long into this, but
You're all right. You're all right.
okay.
It's been a while. We have a lot to talk about.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So, okay. Put it like this: you're in a situation with another person. Let's just say you're in a relationship situation with another person. Both these people have spirit teams. Now, the strength of that team depends on you and what you are doing to learn, and if you are going in the direction of your purpose. And by purpose, I mean your purpose of learning a lesson at the time, or your overall purpose in this incarnation, which was designated by you before you incarnated. If one person in this is doing their function, is engaged in their purpose, and the other person has the option to join that purpose because it is also one of their purposes, or the ability to learn a lesson they need to by joining with you at that time, and they choose not to. They choose to use, manipulate, hurt. They make a wrong decision. The spirit teams around both of these people are talking. They're communicating.
Yes.
And one person on this team might want that person so bad to join with that other person. But that other person doesn't make the decisions that they should. They make the wrong decision. It is not just that the decision itself in the 3D separates these two down different paths. But that separation is also agreed upon by these two spirit teams. Sometimes you have to go through hell. Sometimes you have to go through a traumatic situation or environment, or be hurt because you're too effing stubborn, or you give into your dark side, you give into the evils within you. You give into toxic cycles. And your spirit team will let you spiral down the toilet bowl if you have to. They'll abandon you for a time. Hoping that the karma you receive and the damage that you are doing to yourself will wake you up. And it's not that your spirit team hates you. Your spirit team loves you. They want the best for you.
No, they recognize that you're exercising free will.
Right, and that is it. That's the free will aspect. And it's so tied in, Alex. The whole free will aspect is so tied into manifesting, creation. It's like you go back to like the Christian way of looking at it, right? Which is simplified and is in some ways very 3D and misguided, but in other ways is such a basic truth. God gave man free will.
Yes.
We all have free will. You have the choice to follow good or evil, right? You have the choice to follow authenticity or ego.
Yep.
And if you
Service to
choose
self,
ego,
service to others.
and if you choose ego and you go sharp enough into ego, like the toxic ego, that you are willing to manipulate and hurt and use others, your spirit team will leave your side. They will let other spirits around you, other spirit teams, come in and create influences and stuff in your life to keep you away from people that you're trying to hurt and manipulate and use.
Mm-hmm.
And the only way, this is where the Luciferians come in. This is where what Jillian was talking earlier about subliminal messaging. The only way that evil can win is if they condition you to use your free will to make the decisions that benefit them.
Yes. I love the way you said that.
There you go, brother.
Yeah. So I want to tell you a story to tell you a story. Okay.
Love stories.
First, I want to float out this idea that as wonderful as the Terran physical vehicle is, it doesn't take a lot of like spiritual energy to run it. So your oversoul, like you were talking about before,
Yeah, brother.
100% of it's not going to come down to run a human body because number one, the human body would be destroyed. But
Go with it.
time,
Go, brother.
yeah, time is non-linear when it comes to what spirit can achieve. So as it runs a human body, it will also run other bodies. Some of them might not even be human. Some of it might even retain itself as a non-physical being, non-physical aspect. Now, I told you that story to tell you this. I was listening to this podcast the other day, and I thought this was really interesting. They were questioning, let's call him a psychic, and one of the audience, one of the chat members, just like this lovely chat, they said, I heard this story where there was a young boy who, fell out of a tree and his body was fucked, but the young boy said that before emergency responders showed up, a being with a golden skin but shining so brightly that he could not see the features came down and laid hands on him. And he's laid up in bed and the doctors are telling the parents like, yeah, he's probably not going to pull through, or if he does, he's going to be a lump of shit. Within a couple months he was back to full function. And they were like, so what's up with that? And the psychic thought real hard about it, and he goes, it's tempting to say that this is going to be like an angel or like somebody like that, but it's more than likely that was an aspect of himself that came back and said, no, this one's not done. I'm getting chills talking about it right now.
Yeah, I know exactly where you're talking. Yeah, go ahead, bro.
So that's an instance of what I would say concurrent incarnation. And a lot of times, especially for contactees, when you go on a ship, there's usually a being that you have a special relationship with, especially if it's like a lifelong contact. And more often than not, that specific being is another concurrent incarnation of your own self. It's like you're literally meeting yourself and you have that familiarity.
Yeah, the one.
Yeah. So what do you think about that, buddy?
Oh, the one. That's why I brought the one. I love the way you put things. I also thoroughly enjoy when you introduce terms to me that I've never heard before, but I understand entirely what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
Would you say concurrent incarnation? Is that what you said?
Yeah. So it's
Okay.
it's two entities of the same oversoul that exist in the
Right.
same physical time. Yeah.
In the same
So
physical time. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So
Mhm.
like LODONIS is right here talking to us on the stream, and he's a great guy, but it doesn't take a lot of energy to run him, even though he's
Mhm.
probably more awake than most. Elsewhere, some other planet, some other place, you're also incarnate there. And if at some point you're meant to meet and interact, it'll happen. And sometimes maybe even you do that while you're asleep. Just gonna
Yeah.
say that.
Wow. So that concept, that concept is, I'm going to say new. I'm going to say new to this incarnation. But,
Okay.
and thank you for it. The way that I translate it, once again, my good friend, celestial versus terrestrial.
Uh-huh.
So the way that I translate that has a lot to do with, um, yes, you're right. It doesn't take that much freaking energy to run this carbon unit. Uh, However, that is because the oversoul is connected to, um, how many different timelines, of
Right.
experience that Steve Walton is having,
Right.
and whatever my name may be in those times.
Right. Right.
Really expanding it out, because let's take it to the umph, let's take it to the most degree. Um, which is why I brought up the one earlier when I was talking about that. He goes from timeline to timeline and kills different versions of himself, and then collects all of that soul into himself, which makes him more powerful. Uh, so I am actually interested in this. I want to pick your brain about this because
Sure.
whereas you were talking about the entity or the version of that boy who came to him and laid hands in
Yes.
order to heal him, which is definitely a transference of his own oversoul, like the energetic self into
Yes.
him.
Very
Uh,
good.
you look at, you're telling me that there are within a single timeline concurrent incarnations. Now,
Right.
now I have to ask this: Are you would such a thing exist within this a terrestrial realm, or are you talking more of a celestial realm?
Well,
And as far as concurrency,
and I don't know if this is exactly what you're talking about, the idea of the twin flame. I don't think that that's necessarily what this is talking
no,
about.
no, I'm not talking about twin
If
flame. I think those are opposite polarities that attract to
yeah,
create
yeah, no,
growth,
definitely.
right?
But some people like to imagine that, soulmates and like we're the same person, but you're a boy and I'm a girl and like that's not that's not typically how it works. What I'm talking about more is that there is an aspect of spirit that needs a terrestrial experience. There's one that needs a, Sirius B experience, and there's one that needs a Cassiopean experience.
Right.
So the same soul animates three different bodies on that thing, which is interesting too because ET bodies live longer. So you could have many multiple different human incarnations in the same
Wow.
quote unquote lifetime that your other ET bodies are at. Now, there's another story that's better illustrative of this. There was an author named Dolores Cannon, and she was a regressive hypnotherapist. So she would take people into their past lives so that they could work out past life trauma. And, a lot of times it was like, yeah, I was a witch and I was burned alive, or yeah, I was murdered in a meat packing plant and turned into hot dogs, that kind of thing. But
Mhm.
more and more people started saying, yeah, I'm a blue guy with like uh, three fucking fingers, and one of them is opposable. Somehow it's dexterous. I seem to be smarter. Oh, hey, I'm flying around in a ship. Blah 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 blah. Um, all of
Wow.
these, yeah, yeah. She has a series of books called The Convoluted Universe. It's definitely worth a read, but it was also written in an era where there was less information available about um, the mechanics of the universe. I was able to read it and understand it because I have thoroughly done my homework. So it made sense to me. But she started, I want to say she started like in the 60s or the 70s, and there just wasn't a lot of information out there. So she was just kind of reporting it as it came. She mapped out different correlations and was able to develop a protocol to induce the hypnotic state. But she was learning as she was going, and especially that day and age, advanced masters had a lot to go through when they incarnated into human society back then, especially as a female.
Hmm.
Um, but one of the stories she told was there was a guy who regressed to his past life, and he was he was working on the sea. He was like a fisherman or something like that. And one day he was looking up, wondering about what the fucking point of it all was. And he said he saw a bright point in the sky, and the bright point got larger, and as it got closer, it was a specific geometric shape. And it said, "Would you like to know?" And he said, "Yes, I would very much like to know." And he was invited on board and greeted by a being that he knew it was him. It was absolutely him.
Wow.
And I don't think that she touched on the concept of a concurrent incarnation, but that's exactly what it was. He was literally meeting himself, just in a different body. And what
Dude,
do you
I,
say
I am
when you meet yourself?
I am so doing so. I'm talking about spirit team tonight. I am so doing a fucking meditation tonight on this, bro. Oh my god. Well, it makes sense.
Of course it does.
Yeah, in my own practice and understanding, it absolutely makes sense. If you can house, if you can house different entities, i- if you can have a spirit team that changes guides, then that means that such energies are interchangeable.
Absolutely.
The expansive nature of celestial energy and over the idea of oversoul. Thank you for that word.
Yes, sir.
That I mean, in our experience in this incarnation, time being the construct that it is, there is really no time. Space is
Right.
entirely relative. Then it is absolutely, it would absolutely be possible for you, for your oversoul, to house different units, different carbon structures
Yes.
at the same time, because time is a construct, a man-made construct, or a
Hmm.
third-dimensional construct. Um, Now, so I guess really going back to what I had asked originally, I know you took it to the twin flame soulmate, which is not, that wasn't what I was trying to say.
Okay.
Yeah, but thank you for saying that anyway, because it was nice to hear. Um, what I mean is, can you have a concurrent incarnation on the same world?
Uh, yeah, I would not say that it's typical. I guess it depends on the era, because I mean, geographically, and then physically where you're located, and then the era that you inhabit, the energies are different, and it's a lot more typical that your Terran lives, your concurrent Terran lives, exists at different point on what we would perceive as a timeline. So you might have a you might have this life here in 2024, but then your next life might be in 1875, and it's still the next evolution in your step, but it's not sequential. It's not like, here's my 1800s life, my 1900s life, my 2000 life, my whatever. It's not necessarily linear that way. It has to do with what your oversoul's trying to gather from these different
What?
incarnations.
Right. You're here for lessons. You're here for
Yes.
lessons. Hey,
And
see,
then
you
there's
can go to.
also,
Go ahead.
yeah, go ahead. Go off.
Well, I don't say it's like going to different schools at the same time.
Yeah. And then
Yeah.
as it
Hail.
pertains to
I'm sorry.
that, there's also different areas where you're more or less aware, depending on what the function of
Right,
your
right, right. Well,
spiritual
depending.
intent is there. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Okay, got you. I'm sorry. Yeah, there was another direction you went to, but yeah, right. The spiritual intent, absolutely, but also the conditions and awareness of the embodiment, the incarnate that you are housed, the incarnate that you are
Yes.
operating. Sorry, not housed, but operating. Real quick, I want to say
Yes.
hail to Kevin Yang. What's up, brother? Good to see you. And Curtis YT, good to see or YZ, good to see you, bro. Um,
Yeah, we also got Rookie Critic in the house. What's up, buddy?
hail trans fat.
Yeah. All right, guys. Hey, bros. How you doing? Rook, I actually walked past the Subway the other day and I saw that they had those like pizza roll things for $3. I thought about you. And then the foot long cookie. I thought about that
Look,
too. Doesn't
when
a foot long cookie sound like a real bad slut or something?
oh, if I will gladly share. All right, rookies, foot long cookie with you.
There
Wow.
you go. Right. The
Um,
cookie critic.
dude, the cookie. Yeah. Well,
It's
listen,
badass.
my absolute favorite. One of the when rookie in Trans Fat Chat, you know the Trans Fat intro when he's like he shared that video and he was like, "It's not about the sandwiches." You know, instead of when he did that whole thing.
That's
So,
right.
when he first did that, I was like, that message when he did that was the inspiration for the trans fat intro. It absolutely was.
Oh yeah.
Like I reached out to Lethal Lightning and I was like, can you give me a spiel about wanting to impregnate Brie Larson? Because it was back when he was talking about banging Brie Larson.
Oh
But it
yeah.
was,
Yeah.
but Rookie Critic when he was like, it's not about the sandwiches. It's not about the chips. It's not. I was just like, yo, I gotta put that in the intro, dog.
Hell
And
yeah.
then it was clipping up Snow Dub, or it was clipping up fucking K-Log banging Piggy. I was like, I gotta do
Oh
this.
yeah. Oh, that's classic.
Yeah.
I guess Lethal Lightning's in Japan right now. I was flipping
Dude,
through his Instagram. I was like, oh okay. Right
yo,
on.
Lethal's
Gonna
having
go
fun
find
like a
some
mug.
young senpai.
Listen, I hope he
Some
does.
little waifu.
Let me tell you what, more than once, Lethal Lightning has been my spirit animal. All right. I hope he is. I hope
There
he
we
is.
go. So we're gonna turn to the chat now. If you guys have questions about anything we were asking, go ahead and type them in. We're just gonna go through them real fast. And if there's anything we didn't cover, or if there's a separate topic you want to cover, now's the time. CJ, he says, could AI be an entity too? Now, I don't know if you mean Earth-based AI, but absolutely. The little gray drones, they're AI. They're biological in nature, but their brains are more or less a computer. They don't think, they don't really have independent thought. And actually, at times where contactees have tried to get the little drones to think or consider themselves as distinct entities, the bigger ones get pissed off. Yeah, it's trippy
Yeah,
shit.
that is trippy. I would like to add to that. Like now, it just made me think.
Yeah, go
This
for
is
it.
completely developing thought here, Siege. But if we are units operating um in a matrix, in a third dimensional matrix, then I mean, aren't we AI? So
Mm,
I think that if something gets to the point where I'm gonna say this, Skynet developed the ability to house soul because of its awareness, right? I mean, in the movie, of course, talking about the movie, but because of its awareness of self and its ability to think, then, okay, I'm not soul, excuse me. It has the ability to connect to the fabric, I think, of spirit, like of spirit energy. I don't necessarily think it would have a soul, but I think that it could eventually, an intelligence, even if created, would have a certain level of being able to manipulate or use spirit energy. What are your thoughts on that? That's just like off the top of my head.
so you're saying that AI at some point could develop a capacity to manipulate spiritual energy?
Yes.
Is that what I'm
Yeah.
understanding?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, manifestation, thinking, spirit. Yeah.
The thing is, AI cannot exist except as a creation of an organic being. I suppose it could get to a point where it, like the Cylons or like
Yeah,
what's
that's
it
where I was
called
going
on
with it. That's why I said
yeah,
Skynet.
yeah, and then on on Seth MacFarlane's show where the robot guy Isaac, he came from a planet where they killed all their organic makers. Um, as far as manipulating spirit, though, I'm not sure how possible that was. From what I
Okay.
understand, even with negative regressive entities, um, the furthest they can possibly get might be um, 4D or low 5D. There's
Okay.
actually, yeah. Um, and I also think that there are spiritual cleanup protocols for when things get that terrible, because the universe was not designed to be inhabited by the Borg. You know, um, honestly, I think when things like that happens, sub realms are created, and if
Okay.
that's how it wants to be explored. But again, the purpose of physical life is for spirit to have an experience, and if there is a shell that spirit cannot inhabit, it's not going to have that much of a future.
Okay.
That's what I feel, man. I
All right. Yeah, I was just going off the top of my
yeah,
head. I was just thought it was an interesting
yeah,
question.
yeah, it's cool. Kevin Jang with the package, right?
The package. I know, Kevin. What's going on here, Kevin?
Kevin the package Jang. What's up, buddy? He says dreams are warnings.
They can be.
Dreams are warnings. They can be. Absolutely, they can be.
Can be prophetic. They can be insights into other timelines, into other possibilities.
Yeah.
They can also be insights into other worlds
Yes.
where you exist.
Yes. There's so many different categories of dreams, but yeah, it can be
Yeah.
prophetic. I've had dreams where I woke up the next day and like it fucking played out. I've also had dreams where um, things unspoken between people can be spoken of, even though the next day you go and get in their face again and they're acting the same way. In the dream, they
Well,
can be honest.
when the
Yeah,
show's over, I want to tell you about something in the backstage. I'm sorry.
sounds good, brother. I'll remember to ask you about that.
Thanks.
But there's also the type of dream where lucid dreaming, where you realize you're dreaming and you're like, oh shit, I can do whatever I want. And that can actually be a
Mm,
pathway to astral projection and all different
yes.
kinds of shit. Um,
Yes.
Steven, maybe talk about dream walking for Kevin.
Well, just like he was saying, you can get into a point of lucid dreaming if you're either natural at it or you can practice at it, where you are able to use your astral body to to connect with other people. I don't want to say invade. Invade is kind of like a more aggressive uh, tone to it, but where you can share dreams with others, you can exist
Yes.
in dreams with others, you can walk with them, you can project with them into other realms. I did this so much when I was a kid, which is also connected to the conjuring and sorcery that I was doing at that time. You Where I found ideolons. And so when you dream walk, it is a form of projection. It is projection. It is astral projection. Um, but it's either going to another time and space, another dimensional realm location, uh, to connect with yourself or energies that are sympathetic to you or in search of. Most often, however, I have used it to connect with others and share dreams. Have you ever had that experience? Have you ever had that experience where you're talking to somebody and they were like, I was dreaming about that last night too?
Hmm.
Because you were dream walking with them.
Yes.
That's the most
Yeah.
simplest way to explain it.
And then similar to how we were talking about manifestation earlier, there's conscious and unconscious varieties of a. If you can master dream walking, you will have access to a skill that is very, very powerful.
So powerful. Opens up so
Yeah.
many doors.
Well, the origin of a lot of our experience isn't just 3D by itself. A lot of us are 5D, 7D, 9D. Some are
Woo!
like 11D. Yeah, dude. Think
That's
about it.
it. I can't. I don't even know if I can think on those realms, man. 5D is like where I think the most I've attained. I may be wrong, but I think the most I've attained was like 5.
We'll get there, man. Collectively as a race, and then individually as a soul.
Oh,
Absolutely.
we're developing the triple helix now. So I mean, and it's
There you go,
wonderful.
buddy.
It is wonderful to be in the time and age that we are. People like Kevin, you know, those of us who have battled demons, literal demons,
Yeah.
had to grow ourselves, had to embrace our spiritual selves and understandings,
Yeah.
personal understandings, and inner and outer. Uh, where the whole world's going through that right now, and that's
Yeah.
why there's such a pushback from the powers that were, the Draconians, the Luciferians.
Yeah. Good question, Kevin. And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, that image in the avatar, that's actually him. Kevin's side hustle is Kevin's meat and sausage packing.
Kevin
Hit him up for that.
Kevin was somehow seduced by a narcopath at some point, and I understand why they were attracted to this man. I'm myself having a hard time, you know, maintaining heterosexuality at this moment.
There you go.
But listen, that you know what, Kevin, can you listen real quick? Can you be like? Can you be like the model? I'm not model. What am I looking for? The not spokesperson. What's like Ronald McDonald to McDonald's? What is, I'm trying to think of the word. I can't think of the word.
A mascot.
Thank you, Kevin. Can you be the Dragonstorm mascot? Can we just like get some photos of you just all oiled, baby? I'm not talking about P Diddy baby oil. I'm talking about like. Can we get you baby oiled out? Like, you know what I mean? And just like. Can I put you on a shirt? You know, it's a dragon.
Totally.
I mean,
Thanks, Kev.
The dragon head's going right on your package. All right, like that
There
is
you
it.
go,
It's
man.
rawr. Yeah. Thank you,
Steven wants to make you some custom banana hammocks.
A big old raven.
Totally. It's like, rah. All right. Curtis YZ reacts. He says, if dreams are a warning, then we're about to be invaded by aliens, according to my nap earlier.
Yeah, Curtis. That might be happening. I know CJ out there can't see the moon. There's some people out there can't see the moon. I don't understand what's going on.
Yeah.
It might be coming.
You know,
Listen,
so go ahead.
No, I'm saying contact. First off, on multiple timelines, open contact has already happened. You know,
Yes.
it's a convergence. It is a convergence of timelines that are cycling down to one definitive. And it's a shame that in our timeline, current timeline, that hasn't openly happened yet. But it's going to one day. It's going to. I mean, there's only so much denial that the United States Air Force. There's only so much. There's almost so much bullshit they can peddle. You know what I mean? Before we think, you know, it's. I want to see
all the world.
I'm,
all the world powers have been contacted already, and some of them made some shady alliances. Some of them had been told to fuck off. Others of them were just like, yeah, you know, we're good. So the strategy shifted to where it's just going to be individual contactees, and a lot of times the ones that are being contacted, there's this sort of genetic or spiritual affiliation, but a lot of us and our contacts were just being like educated. You know, the one of the experiences I had, Stephen, and if you guys don't know, I've been up there with them. And this didn't have to do with sexy things. It was.
I was going to
like
ask, were you banging it?
Yeah. It was an educational setting, and it was a row of like virtual reality machines. That's the only way I can explain it, because you know, when you're outside of them And they kind of reminded me of like Professor X chairs, like the little thing he flew around on in the
Yeah.
fucking cartoon. When you're outside of them, you can just see rows and rows of these fucking things. And I saw people plugged up to them. Um, the room that I happened to be in were mostly children. Um, and then they asked me to hop into one, so I hopped into one, and it projected a holographic reality, and it was very, very intense. And I think that the purpose of the exercise was to see if I could maintain awareness that it was an illusion. And I want to say for a good like 10, 12 seconds, I gave into it, but then I realized what it was, and I came out of it. And then there were fucking instruments in front of me on the panel, and they were like, "Hey, good job," blah blah blah.
Wow.
So education takes place en masse for most of humanity. Um, Sometimes you're physically taken aboard, and sometimes it's like the lessons are handed to us or downloaded to us. Like I said, at some point, 100% of the negative regressive entities will be gone, and we'll just be left with the regressive entities of Terran human carbon being origin. Essentially, we'll have our own uh, the people who are born and hatched here who are wicked. We'd have to, as a race, deal with, because one of the things is ETs have always been here. They've been here longer than we have. It's just events, especially since like the bomb went off. It's not in their best interest to come down and interact with us right now. We're a very brutal fucking race. We're childish in a lot of ways. And if they came down and solved all our problems with us, well, guess what? They just accepted responsibility for shit we created, and then they'd have to babysit us. And that not only affects our reality, that affects theirs too. That's not their fucking function. Um, Most of them just want us to wake up and behave, grow the fuck up, that kind of stuff. Um, as far as invasion goes, nah, we're protected, man. Um, he's elaborating about his dream here. He says, it was like a movie. We fought them, we were winning, but we weren't really winning. They took us over, and we had to infiltrate them, and then I woke up. Okay.
Sounds
Um,
like a P Diddy party.
yeah. Um, and I wonder if you were glimpsing a separate timeline, man. Um, like I said, there was a lot of concurrent possibilities, especially like late 90s, early 2000s. Like it could have gone a bunch of different ways. And a lot of us were skipping around on all those ways. But recently, higher dimensions, honestly, were weaving together things to where there was. I actually had an experience about this, Stephen. Like, and I want to say this is like, I don't know, 2008, 2009, something like that. I was on board a craft, and it was one of those things where they took my essence and plugged it into an avatar. I was telling you about that. That's one of the ways that they do it. Um, and there was this benevolent green being, and I want to say he might have been like aquatic or you know amphibious or something like that, but he had green skin, super long fingers. He had orange eyes. I remember that. And for a second, I was like, but then he was like, "Hey," and I was like, "You're of the light, right?" And he kind of like smirked at me. He was like, "Yeah, of course. We're working together right now." And so he started talking about braiding the timelines. He's like, at this point in time, we only have a couple of different possibilities. And I remember asking him, I was like, well, what if I like A, B, and C down there? And he goes, I'm not certain. I'm not certain that this boils down to you, but you do what you can. And it was that kind of thing. And other stuff happened, but suffice it to say, the timelines are being worked on. And the effort is to remove off-world influence so that humanity can be self-determinate for once, because we've been so fucked with. Uh, we haven't even been our own. Shit, a lot of us still believe we're just a pool of chemicals that happened by accident. That ain't the fucking fact. That ain't the case. We're a lot more special than that.
I have I have a similar top. I have a question
Sure.
for you. Okay, so you're talking about those potentials and contacts between different government or government structures. So
Mhm.
I have to ask this? So was Trump talking about Space Force back, because he was told about extraterrestrials, or because Musk would love to build a Space Force?
I am so glad you asked that. I actually was going to bring that up on Sporking, but he started feeling bad. So
Yeah, yeah.
we'll
Sporting
talk
got
about
stressed
that
about it.
here. Okay. From what I understand, Elon has been in contact. He is one of those rare individuals that was able to um, use his Bruce Wayne money to essentially go and play in outer space. Now, you don't get to go and play in outer space without realizing that Earth is like a fucking parking lot, and the solar system is like a fucking parking lot. There's a lot of interesting things going on in this star system, not only with ETs, but they're focused on us. Because in some small way, if we can master ourselves, I feel like we're one of the keys to third density solving itself, right? Um, from what I understand, yeah, Elon was a contactee, and it's no accident that Trump introduced a space force, and now with the very strong probability that he's going to be our next president, if Elon Musk gets appointed to some governmental position, I think that open disclosure would not be that far away.
Hmm. That's what I'm hoping.
Trump was, yeah, Trump was questioned about UFOs recently on some podcast somewhere, and they were like, yeah, blah blah blah, the aliens. And he goes, yeah, I looked into that, and I tried to find some things, and I did find some things, but then I was kind of blocked on other things. I think part of clearing the swamp is going to be that. And honestly, if Trump gets into power and Elon's one of his dudes, and they're concurrently developing Space Force vehicles, because Earth definitely does have a fleet. We definitely do have a fleet. Um, some of the shit that we have constructed is based on off-world designs, and
Reverse
we're not
engineering.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Of course, nowhere near the level of sophistication that's already out there, but it's enough to help um, clear out the negatives, and it is in our best interest as a race, because we are one race, um, to actively participate in that. But there's also just as many people um, involved in the cabals and we were talking about that on the last stream, Stephen. Those guys who are absolutely terrified of that happening, because if they lose control over us as an energy source and as a food source, uh, then they're fucked.
Hmm.
But that's what happens when you choose the dark path. Eventually,
Yep.
you're gonna fuck yourself. Because who else is there? We're all one. We're all one.
Well said, man.
Absolutely. Thank you. Siege says, I'd like to go into the future to see if we actually landed on Mars. Well, of course we have. There's actually Terran human bases on Mars right now as we speak. Some of what's the guy's name? I'll have to find it and put it later. There are people who are taken and they go and serve over there for a couple of years and then they're returned. Um, some of them, their memories are repressed. There's one particular guy, and man, his name fucking escapes me, but he was very descriptive about humans using bases that were thousands of years old and just kind of refurbished and rehabilitized for human existence. And it's a no shit space station. There's other races walking around, but there was some kind of insectoid race that was creating problems on Mars that human soldiers had to go out and address. And shit, it might have been the basis for Starship Troopers. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, dude. It bugs me that I can't remember the guy's name. Because he struck me as very genuine, dude. Like you can tell in realms like this, there's a lot of crazy people, and there's a lot of people who do not sound grounded at all, and they're sitting there trying to present themselves as subject matter experts. One of the guys like that really always bugged me was the guy on Ancient Aliens. Like, he has that meme where it's like aliens. You know what I'm talking about? The dude with the fucking hair. They always
Yeah.
find people like that because they want to make all that shit sound crazy. But the people who have actually been through it will talk to you about it just like, yeah, I woke up and ate a fucking pack of peanuts. You know, it's not a big deal. I went to the grocery store and grabbed some milk. Yeah, I was a soldier on Mars. You know, we did a bunch of weird shit, that kind of
Mhm.
thing. You gotta use discernment, use the same kind of, and also there's another good point right there. When they land, we're not to be in awe of them. Sure, they have a different biology. Sure, they have different technology, but they are just people.
Mhm.
You have every right to declare your sovereignty, to have them ask permission to enter your space, all that kind of stuff. Do not be in awe of them. Do not worship them.
Yeah, they don't
That
want
would be
that.
a mistake. Yeah.
Yeah.
No. Nah, man.
Well, the lighter ones.
Yeah. Humanity already went through that phase, man. We already had our Egypt and Atlantis and
Right.
fucking Sumer Akkad. You know, we're done worshiping ETs as gods. This is time for us to grow up and declare ourselves sovereign.
Mhm.
Take responsibility for our own shit, clean up our planet, and build a future where we're hand in hand with the. We're creating Star Trek, basically, people. Gene Roddenberry
Yeah.
was a contact here too.
Roddenberry,
That's who he was.
Star Trek,
Yeah.
not Kurtzman Trek.
Yep. No, that shit's the cabal.
Yep.
Siege says, I have a theory. Do you think we go extinct in the future and we created or on or an AI created a simulation and we're just replaying the past? I think that's a little bit too weird. I'm sure that there's timelines. I'm sure there's timelines where we extincted ourselves. That's fine. But in some senses, I think that, how do I say this correctly? The ET races, which have mastered what we would consider time travel, realized that if Earth were to fall or go to the dark side or whatever, it would be a bad fucking situation for many multiple star systems. So as early as the 40s and 50s, races would come and visit and generationally try to improve the um, enlightenment consciousness of human races, and they did that through family lines. They did that by incarnating themselves as Terran humans. The Dark Ones started trying to do that shit too, but that in itself was doomed to fail. Like I said, you walk the dark path, you're eventually gonna hit the wall. Spirit, though, spirit's function is just to experience, so it's happy just to see what is and do what does. But there is a point in the game where if spirit falls to such a low vibration, it's not fun anymore because you get to the other side and you're so damaged. Like, it takes millions of what we would perceive as years to scrub that soul clean. Um, that is a very interesting question. You have any thoughts on that, Stephen?
The only thought that I have is that the guy who bangs aliens just said that that was too weird for him. So I'm backing out of this one.
Yeah, you could stick a dick in an alien, but yeah, all that other shit's kind of weird.
Yeah, that says a lot, Coil. I'm not. No, I'm good. I'm good. Thank you for answering that, sir.
All right. This guy keeps on getting increasingly hypothetical. He goes, or maybe we could also all be dead and just be reliving our memories in the last few seconds we have left. Dude, I don't know
No,
what
you're
you're smoking up in Nova Scotia, but you're going off on some. No, that's not how it works, man. It's
That's
not
what
how it works.
the Canadian government is allowing him
Yeah.
to text.
That's all he's allowed to speculate.
That's
That's
right.
not how the force works. Fuck, dude. Okay. Kevin responding to earlier, he says, astral projection type dreams are the most uncanny. Yeah,
Just like your banana hammock. Yes.
there you
Absolutely.
go. There you go. He says, I was virtually looking on people doing things while I stood in a corner, all while the body was asleep.
Oh, that is so
Yeah,
cool,
dude.
Kevin. You were the coolest
Yeah.
Orthodox Christian I have ever met with a banana hammock. You are incredible.
Well, and there are analogs in the Christian um, ideology that can account for all that. But you're actually, and I think uh, Scott from the Narc Abuse channel, um, there are points where you're going to start to touch the limits of your theology, and you're going to have to embrace a wider understanding. Now, something that I want to say to Christians specifically, um, there are things that the Vatican absolutely suppressed. And if you're familiar with the councils of Nicaea that occurred like in AD 900, and I think there was another one a couple hundred years later, their jobs were to edit out of the Bible like mystical and dream type stuff, exists today as the Apocrypha and the Pseudepigrapha. Those are things that, if they were canon prior to AD 900, that means those are things that Jesus would have understood. And Jesus
Hmm.
himself was in between realms. Shit, he defeated death. He created physical matter. He condensed the energy of the universe into physical matter. And he's like, he kept on producing bread. He kept on producing fish. He transmuted the molecules of water into wine. Now, here's what he says. Why are you so amazed? All of this and more shall you also do. And he also said, did I not say that ye are gods? Think about that. The type of Christian, Jesus didn't even consider himself a Christian. He was just living authentically. Other people
He's a
called
Jew.
it Christianity. Uh, Christos is just a Greek word for the anointed, right?
Yeah.
Um, don't be hypnotized by the scribblings of men and the rituals of men. Try to think about what it is that Jesus actually said, what it is that how it is he actually walked, and the type of being that he advocated for everybody to be. And also consider this, Kevin. Something happened between the age of 12 and the age of 30, which the Bible doesn't fucking say a peep about. But I suspect Jesus walked the earth and he came upon many different philosophies and figured out something that worked for him. And along the way, he opened up his antenna to source. And what a powerful one that must have been. Yeah. Good shit, buddy. Good shit. I'm getting tingles right now, dude. My whole like
Are
up
you?
and down is just
It's his
uh
avatar. It's all right. I understand that. That's the Dragonstorm
I know,
mascot.
right?
Yeah.
Right. We have to look at his third eye chakra, we're pulled towards it.
It's like fucking
Oh
crowns
man.
like a mushroom stamp. Yeah.
So Curtis says, come on, come on. The dream that I had felt very familiar. I wonder if it was a shared dream. It felt like a dream I've had before, and it was so unlike dreams that I usually have or anything I was thinking about recently. Well, there are certain dreams that we have that we are not very aware of as we're dreaming. And we forget them like as soon as it happens or as soon as it wakes up and we have to go and brush our teeth and drink coffee and go to work and shit. Um, but there are some dreams that are absolutely as real as this is right now, as us being in our awake state. Now, consider this, Curtis. We spend roughly 1/3 of our life asleep, dreaming, if you will. Isn't that third of our life just as valid as the other 2/3? What do you think, Steve?
I think that's um I think that I'm lost. I'm sorry. I'm so tired. I just lost everything. I am.
That's cool.
I
That's
lost my
cool.
mind.
We're,
Yeah, I lost my train of thought. I'm sorry.
no, that's good. We just
I
have a
apologize.
couple of. That's okay. We just have a couple more of these, and if you need a fucking bounce, dude, let me know. And we can.
No, I'm right here with you till the end. I will be here falling
All right.
asleep. I don't give a shit. I'm here, Coil.
All right. We have to be kind to Steven. When we start the show for him, it's 2 a.m. So if we're going 2.5 hours, it's like 4:30 where he is. And it's pretty late for me when I start. I actually take a nap for a little bit before I wake up and do the show.
He does, and I woke him up earlier. And I'm
Yeah.
sorry to Shellback if you guys are spooning. I apologize. I
No,
didn't
that's okay.
disturb you.
He's used to this. I choked him until he fell asleep. All right. So Kevin says, I saw Narkex screwing another new guy, a former female
Wow.
colleague. Then in 2017, walking to another job, she tried keeping a secret from the boss. Crazy.
Damn,
Sorry,
she's
bro.
all over the place. Yeah, I'm sorry, dude.
Yeah.
I get it.
And that's
Get it.
I talk about that a little bit on the other channel, but I'll talk about it in the way that I understand it now. These are absolutely training relationships. Your energetic matrix and her energetic matrix are such that you want to give and she wants to feed. And your job is to learn how to not do that. Your energy is sacred. It's for you. It does not belong to anybody else. And again, like Stephen was talking about with the spirit guides, if you decide to intertangle yourself with people like that, your spirit guides are going to be like, all right, man, we tried to tell you, go ahead, stick your dick in the fire, see how it feels. But if and when you end those relationships and you learn from those relationships and you heal from those relationships, you will be in a position to offer your own unique healing gift to mankind, one that you understand uniquely because you have walked through that yourself. So keep pushing, buddy. I know it's going to hurt. You're going to see these people in different things. The best way to do it is just to let her go, let it be, go do your own thing.
Yeah.
You know, somebody else will shop at that sausage store. So all right, he says one dream walking experience after another in one night. Yeah, dude. Yeah. All right, here come the tree fuckers. RR says yeah, Kevin's getting Walton's tree up.
My
Parrot
mighty
of
oak.
course. Yeah. Parrot of course. Yeah. Go ahead.
My mighty oak cannot compare to Kevin's redwood. All right, it's what it is. It's what it is.
All right. Siege says, come on, fucker. All right. Are some of the aliens sick of our shit and some still have hope for us and some that abandoned us after they tried? Okay. Here's my understanding. And this was before they even like intervened, and especially some of the human races, right? There are other races that were more or less willing to assist. But the human races in particular, they all stem from the Lyra system, and they were dispersed. They went to the Pleiades, the Hyades, Andromeda, all of these various iterations of human. Some of them very much have karma with us on Earth. They installed Edens. They fucked with the genome. We're very much closely related to them, even though we have components of other races installed in us. But there was a council once upon a time, and seriously, the debate of our worth was a topic at the table. You know, there were some races that were like, that's our seed, that's our lineage, that's a human race, we owe it to them. You know, one family, even across the stars. There were other races that were absolutely, look, they don't respect themselves. They don't respect their planet. What is their fucking value? You know? But when it was understood who we were genetically, who we were spiritually, because some of we can house more evolved spirits in some instances than they can. Plus, they're because we have different races and different cultures down here, and a mix of genetics, we have a grander capacity for I hate that this word has been co-opted, but diversity, like healthy diversity. A lot of those societies have become old and homogenous, and it's not that there's not joy, but it's just things are just fucking how they are, and there's not a lot of not the same type of creativity. Let's say that a lot of those ETs, and especially human ETs, they're in awe of our ability to create. We can just pull music out of the air. We can make a chair and it'll stay like that for 100 years. You know, their shit, like they use it for how much they use it, and then it disappears back into the isness. You know, try not to be so cynical, CJ. I know that you've walked through some shit, man, but there's a lot of wonder and a lot of amazement and love out there in the universe. We'll help you find it, sir. Jilla thing, she says, if your oversoul incarnates two bodies simultaneously, what must it be like to meet another you? I would imagine pretty profound. I would imagine on a spiritual level, you would recognize yourself right away. And that's why it would be powerful. You would instantly, implicitly trust this other you. Because what would your motivation be for harming yourself? I think only humans on Earth do that. All right. We got a lot of hail, RR, blah, blah, blah. Parrothead says, Coil, are you still spooning with Shellback? I think we just addressed that.
Yes, he is.
Yeah, I'm the big spoon. Curtis comes back. He says, well, and I should, that's just a joke, but I should seriously thank Shellback. He's given me a roof and a place to be, and he's not asking for much. Just friendship, really. Curtis says, I think a lot of us are worth saving and are good people, but many people in power are not aliens. I can see that. Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of people in power that have gone through highly ritualistic initiation involving, blood and flesh and all those dark things that Stephen was talking about earlier. And they're entrenched because they were promised power. But some of those guys trace their bloodlines to off-world sources, and they believe themselves to be demigods. Descendants of the off-world, of the heavenly beings that used to reign supreme over populations of humans. And they see other humans as beneath them, even though genetically we're not really that divergent.
Right.
There's people in the chat here who probably have blue blood, as it were, or off-world blood, as it were. But that's the thing. If you have guys like that who are licking the assholes of incarnate ETs and sort of siphoning off their power, and they're like sycophants and yeah, if I bring you the brain of a child, could I blah 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 and have domain over this? You remove those entities, and then suddenly these fucking sycophants have nowhere to go. It's like you've cut off their supply. Like that word, Stephen.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, you've cut off their supply, and then suddenly it's like, okay, you guys have been fucked with for so long. We're gonna remove that. How are you guys gonna manage now? Are you gonna continue down the dark path, or are you gonna fucking do what must be done? Lord Vader to these evil guys. Yeah. Kevin says, sorry, slipping in and out with intermittent internet connection. All right, Steven's gonna have a field day with that one.
You're slipping in that, Kev.
Kevin Jane, the Wang, is slipping in and out.
Kevin Wang. There is no shortage of baby oil at Kevin's house. I guarantee.
All right. He's a good guy to put up with all this shit. He actually has some
I
really
love him.
insightful shit to say.
Yeah.
He says if Kamala Ding Dong gets elected, how will it affect the space travel thing? Well, there's a very strong probability she's not going to be elected, but that would come to a standstill. They don't want us to go to space. They don't want us to embrace a larger view of reality. They want us to be
No.
broken, separate, shut
Mm.
down individuals
Yeah,
that they
I
can
mean,
exploit and feed. Yeah,
and it's pretty damn apparent with the way, like with the North Carolina situation. It's very apparent. They have billions upon billions upon billions of dollars to send to places to maintain proxy wars and keep the warmongers and the military industrial complex fed with money, with fresh souls, fresh bodies to kill and destroy. But as soon as American citizens need help after a disaster, where's the money at? You got Biden out there asking people to pitch in because they're out of money, while Kamala's promising money to two sides of a war that's happening over in the Middle East. They absolutely do not want us to go to explore, to expand, to feel good. You're talking about, and Alex was talking about this earlier, low resonance people. All right, people who sit around and talk shit and stab people and smear reputations and abuse people and use people. They don't grow. They don't want you to grow. They want everybody to be in the muck. Low vibrational entities need you to be at a low vibration so they can consume you. That's why dark people housed with dark entities and low vibrational humans are involved in warfare and destruction of others' characters and going after anything that resembles peace and tranquility and togetherness, because those are high vibrational aspects to the human experience. No, they would absolutely not. You wouldn't care. The only way that it would matter is if Kamala and the rest of the Dramalas out there could benefit monetarily off the backs of destroying other people.
Well, let's also say there's a potential before all this shit was set in motion, there was a plan for the elite to get on the technology that they have and like leave the fucking planet if it ends up going to shit, and just leaving the rest of us here and going and doing something else.
Oh man, they already
That's
got
not-
that plan. But
Yeah.
dude, listen. I mean, I'm sorry to cut you off, Alex, but like
That's
their
fine.
plan isn't to go off world. If that happens, you are talking about a Morlock situation. All right, you're talking about the Time Machine, H.G. Wells, and more to the point, the one that was released in the '90s, the redo of the Time Machine. You're talking about they're going to go underground. Where do they traffic people? Where do they hide their stuff? Where do they hide their abuses? Underground. That's why you have those systems in place now, off the piggybacking off of the technology that existed before and during and after the Younger Dryas period. They will not go off world. They will hide underground, and they will turn into Morlocks. Is what they'll do, and eat people and come up to the surface to collect some Eloy to fucking eat, because that's what darkness does. It's not about expansion. It is about contraction and control.
Yeah. Either way, a future like that, like I said on Terra, is going to affect everything. So
Yeah.
that's not going to happen. I would also say spiritually, there are spiritual warriors who are invested in the fate of Earth and have incarnated specifically to raise a vibration.
Yeah, you're looking at two of them.
There you go, buddy. Curtis says, who do you think is really going to be elected? I think it will be Trump. I think the tides are turning towards him. Absolutely.
Well, they
Kamala
don't
not
have.
only.
Sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry, dude. I didn't mean to cut you off.
That's okay. That's okay. Kamala, not only is she unfit, she makes an ass out of herself, and typically where the media would be willing to cover her up or make her look better than she actually does. They're allowing her to show herself.
Yeah.
She when she talks, she doesn't speak about issues. She always like spins it around or like changes the subject or brings in some kind of thing that has nothing to do with it to eat up the time. She doesn't
Yeah.
do live press. Everything has to be scripted. She went on 60 Minutes and they tossed some questions out at her that she wasn't prepared for, and you could see her just like wincing and making faces and uh, like clutching herself like protectively and just shit like that. That's not becoming of a world leader. Could you imagine that lady getting out in front of Putin and him handing her
And
ass? No.
well, she'd do what she does with every other powerful man that she's been around. She wouldn't stand in
Yeah,
front of him.
she'd fall to
She'd
her
kneel.
knees.
Yeah. Uh,
She'd kneel.
when the one of the poster children for progressivism, Saturday Night Live, is clowning the Democrats, there's a problem, and I think a lot of it has to do with the fact they don't have a coof. They don't have a coof to hide behind and lock people down and smear campaign and fearmonger with this time around. The entire country, they basically got away, and everybody knows it. I don't care how conditioned you are. I don't care how conditioned a progressive you are. They got away with some possible, let's say, alleged election fraud in 2020.
Uh-huh.
They can't do all that again. And let's face it, you have to be a real effing moron to not realize that you were making money in the Trump years, and then Biden got in there, or they whatever happened for him to get in there, and everybody's losing money. You got to be a real moron to still support a system that is literally effing you harder than P Diddy. You know, like that's why, like, I really normally look. Politics can be heated, religion can be heated. These can be heated topics. I tried to in the past keep them away from Dragonstorm, but now we're talking about them. And like Dragonstorm specific, right? For those of you guys that watch narc abuse content, I cannot understand how anyone considers themselves competent or aware, who has gone through something like abuse from a psychopath or a narcissist, understands what lying and gaslighting and smearing and destroying characters and flying monkeys and all of that is about, and see what the Democrats have done and not see a group of narcissists. Like, I just can't understand it. I can't understand it. You
Right.
know? So
Now I
like,
realize
that's
we
where
have
I'm at with it.
Yeah, I realize we have an international audience and maybe American politics aren't really your
Oh
bag,
yeah, my
but
bad. My bad.
it's all right. There is a point where what we decide here will affect the rest of the world, and the leader that we
Well,
put in your face is the one that you're going to have to deal with.
it's
So,
very important because it's one of the last. I mean, currently at this moment, with the political structure as it is and the people that are in those positions, um, like one of the Western nations has to pull through. It can't just all be Poland. You know what I mean? It can't just all be Poland. Poland is the only one over in the in the in the European Union. It's the only country that is standing up and saying no. You know, they're being sensible. Russia is being sensible.
mhm,
Whatever you think, Putin's not taking shit. You come to this country, you immigrate to this country, you got to learn our language, you got to learn our value system, you got to, or you're not going to be here. Meanwhile,
right.
UK, Canada, they are completely draconian. They have
Oh yeah,
wrong think laws. And that's what they're
yeah,
trying to do in the States. Thank God we're pushing back in Trump 2024.
absolutely. Um, Kevin says, I think, contrary to liberal opinion, Trump is better for Americans and the rest of the world. Yeah, being a liberal these days, I mean, Stephen will talk to you about that. It's a lot different than how it used to be like in the 60s. Um,
There are very few liberals supporting the Democratic Party. They are progressives. And there is a big fucking difference.
yeah, that's true.
I am a liberal. I do
Yeah,
not identify with progressives. they are monsters.
Yeah. Well, the people calling themselves liberals these days, they openly court socialism and communism, which we fought a couple of different world wars to keep off this fucking continent. I have relatives that died in those wars. Um,
Mhm.
the people who were called liberal in the 60s would probably be called Republican right now.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. George Carlin. I'm a George Carlin liberal. All right.
there you go.
George Carlin would be considered an alt-right Nazi today.
Hmm.
That's progressivism, extremism.
Yeah,
I fight them
Kevin's
as
laughing
hard.
at.
Yeah, I would fight them as much as I would fight a Christian conservative extremist. Absolutely.
There you go. Kevin's laughing at me. He says, "Screwing aliens, lol." Dude, it's in the Bible. They've been mating with us since Genesis
That's one.
chapter 6. Go look
Yep.
it up.
Yep. That's
They
one.
haven't stopped. Ask me how I know. Kevin says, "Oh yes, there was a view that Jesus came into contact with Buddhism and other philosophies.
Yeah.
Roich, the Russian esoteric traveler, proposed that in Tibet." Yeah, actually, that's kind of what I was insinuating there. I'm glad that
Yeah.
you're hip enough to be open-minded to that.
Dude, Kevin's a spiritual cat, man. It's like he's following the path of Christ, like dude, through and through.
Yeah,
Yeah, I believe that the Buddhists, I'm not sure where, please don't quote me, but they called him Zion, I think. It wasn't that like they referred to him as the Zion or something, or Zion. I gotta look
I
that up.
wouldn't
I'm
be
sorry, I'm too
surprised.
tired to remember.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no, I
I'm
wouldn't
gonna
be
look that up.
surprised. Back in the time of Christ, there was actually quite a few wandering prophets, and the thing was that they would just travel around and philosophize, and people would be like, "Wow, it's pretty fucking hip. Can I feed you? Can I, whatever."
Yeah.
Um, and like I said, from 12 to 30, what was he doing? Where was he? And why doesn't the Bible uh, or the Vatican want you to know? Yeah, it's kind of trippy. Um, let's see here.
Nothing tells you aliens exist like the freaking fact that that Rome, Holy Rome, has a protocol for converting aliens. So,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Oh yeah. Well, and look at some of the sculpture out in the Vatican. There's a lot of stuff that insinuates off-world sources, but the Vatican is actually, let's call them the inheritor of a vast amount of, and hoarder,
Oh,
actually, of a vast
yeah.
amount of ancient knowledge. Um, they systematically
Yeah.
went around the world, wiped out all of the old sources of ancient knowledge, archived them, and stuck them down in their fucking coffers, and then walked around and told us to think something else.
Bro, can we on a future episode can we talk about the Tartarian culture?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, cool.
Kevin says some cultures, such as the Japanese, subsist on very little sleep, but they end up rather messed physically.
Messed up.
There's a there's a balance to that. I think I read once that Da Vinci wouldn't sleep in a solid block of 8 hours. He would wake up and work for a couple of hours and then take a nap for a couple of hours, and then vice versa, so that way he was productive throughout the day. And I think different, how do I say this, the position of Earth relative to the sun and the moon and the stars, different sides of that affect you in different ways. There's been times where I've been nocturnal and I've done all my shit at night, and I was productive in one way, and then diurnal, I was productive in a different way.
Yeah, I'm
I
in
would like
nocturnal
to
sleep.
I would like to at some point get to the point where I could do like Da Vinci did and just like sleep when I wanted to and wake up and work and invent and create and all that kind of shit. And hopefully next year on the fucking Express that'll happen.
When the train wreck express comes rolling through, choo choo,
Choo choo.
we are going to live stream from a couch fort at some point. Coil and I
Yeah.
were talking about this. We were like, yeah, we're gonna do a live stream where we're like, we are, it is the Sage and the Savage on the Trainwreck Express from so and so's living room. Yes, we are in a couch fort, and so at some point we're going to help you heal. And then whoever it is,
That's
like
right.
whoever's there is gonna go, guy is going to be like, shut the fuck up. Start yelling at him and shit, being abusive.
Totally. We're here to help you heal.
Make me a fucking sandwich.
Oh, that's silly. That is silly. Let's see more political things. Jilathania, she says, it's always good to hear an enlightened and informed perspective. Absolutely, that's what we're here for.
Jill, I am totally susceptible to compliments. You're turning me on right now. Thank you.
Okay. Curtis says, any knowledge? You're all good, brother. Jill and I talk all the time. She knows how I feel. Any knowledge on Serbia? I find that country fascinating, but I don't know much about it. Or the Yugo Wars, kind of random, I know. Let's say this. And I don't know anything about modern Serbia. I know that there was a big fucking war that happened, and there was a lot of migrants and all that kind of stuff. I know that they're also receiving U.S. funds currently. But historically, in that region, once upon a time, there was a country called Khazaria. And Khazaria, the king one day converted to Judaism. And once that happened, a large Central European population suddenly became Jewish. So to distinguish what I would call like ethnic Jews, like the Middle Eastern Jews, and the Khazar Jews, they invented a term called Ashkenazim. And those are the ones that ended up setting up Israel and shit. And those are the ones that like Hitler killed and all that kind of stuff. Very little Middle Eastern Jews were involved in it. That's in that same region. And it's interesting that it's being fought over and all that kind of stuff. There's a lot that has to do with oil. You know, that's about all I know. Other sources are probably better to research on that. Do you know anything about Serbia, LODONIS?
No, I'm sorry. I'm not familiar enough with that topic.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see here. Parrot. Coil humps aliens and Walton humps trees. Fair enough.
That's yeah, that might be the truth.
Fair enough. Married to Gaia and married to the cosmos, right?
Yeah, brother. Yeah, brother.
Yeah, let's see here. Okay, the chat's talking to itself about the Serbia question. That's good. I'm glad you guys are there. Let's see. Yeah, I think that's about it. It looks like the rest of it is just you guys been talking to each other. Listen, it's been 3 hours. I know Steven's about to just like crash and die. So we're gonna go ahead and wind down the stream. Yeah, if you could do me a favor, currently we have 8 of you guys listening. Make sure the thumbs up button is hit. I'm still only at like 600 something period. You know, like everybody I stream with is at like 10K or 5K or like 3K, just 1.5K. I would like to get to 1,000. That would be great. Once this Trainwreck Express gets going, we'll be able to stream a little bit more often, and we'll get it going. But please help. Once the stream is shut down, go ahead and leave a comment. Share this out. I got a tab called Modern Savage Spirituality. Open it up and let it play. You know, I need the watch hours. I need to get monetized, all that kind of stuff. I'm also working on a new video, and Steven and Jill was helping me out with it. And it's a little bit racy. Let me explain. I do have a playlist called where I'm talking to AI. And what I did is I found Chat GPT and I started philosophizing with it. And then I was able to go and find an AI voice and bring it to life. And it was pretty cool. I got some videos on like astral cetaceans and aliens and AI, dreaming and shit like that. Sometimes on some of these websites, I see advertisements where it's like design your own AI girlfriend and she can be your fucking sex toy and blah blah blah. And I was like, I wonder if I can get one of these like robo whores to philosophize. And eventually I did, but like there's some like very adult adjacent content on it. So I'm trying to bring that to life, and I'm trying to utilize Steven and Jill's and a couple of other people to try to get that thing going. It is a little bit racy, so I'll have like a warning attached to it. But look for that coming down the pike. That should happen real soon. And then other than that, check in on the weekends. I'm going to be a little bit more proactive about. Like I said, I had a crazy couple of weeks here, but I'm back in the saddle again, baby, and I'm raring to go. Steven, tell them about yourself and where they can find you and what you're all about.
You can check me out over on LODONIS Dragonstorm YouTube, Narcissist Abuse Awareness, home of Rogue Entertainment, every Saturday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And you can also check me out on LODONIS Ravenwolfe, where I'll be holding spiritual conversations and doing tarot card streams here very shortly. Thank you guys so much for being here. Appreciate you. Be good to yourselves. Be good to each other. Suffer no fools. Wash your hands. Wash your ass.
And we will talk to you later.
And spoon with Shellback.